And a good afternoon to everybody. What's up? This is the Black Avenger, Lee Sanders, and you're listening to the RCWR Show Weekend Edition, coming to you live right now on blogtalkradio.com and our sister website at infinityoneproductions.com. We're also heard live right now on Stitcher. If you don't have that Stitcher app, make sure you grab it when you get a free moment. Coming at you live on August 25th, 2012. How's everybody going, folks? Hope y'all are having a good jump start to your weekend right now. And before we go into today's episode, we definitely want to just give a shout out to those of you that are up in the New York area, as we had heard about what had happened out there this past Friday. We had this crazy nut who sat up, and he had been working at this building for a certain amount of years, and he just was not getting along with one of his coworkers. They just never gelled, and they were definitely the complete opposite of one another. One guy, he sat up, he just kept coming in, first one to be there in the morning, last one to leave out. Hard-working guy. The other guy, he was good-looking, nice build, one of those type of guys. When he wanted something, he knew how to get it, and there was no questions asked. These two guys, just for some weird reason, they just did not get along together, and they shared the same cubicle, and just years and years of animosity, I guess is what we can call it best, just continued to grow amongst these two guys, and it just got to the point where one of the guys was let go from his job. Now, this guy, he really took it to the head because despite losing his job, it's reported that he sat up and he still did the same routine. He still got up every morning. He still put on his same suit or different set of suits, went to the McDonald's, grabbed himself some breakfast, and he just kind of gave the impression that he was still going to work, but a lot of people were not under the impression, and apparently, that he had lost his job a while back. So this guy returns to his former place of employment looking for a fight with his coworker, the good-looking guy, and they brawled in the elevator. Luckily, security stepped in. They broke it up, but unfortunately, folks, this story would take a tragic turn as this guy would later turn right back around, creeping this guy in a white van and would open fire at this guy. This guy, unfortunately, got popped. Luckily, no innocent bystanders were caught up in the crossfire, but just really disturbing when you hear this story right here. You know, we all have that unfortunate displeasure with some of the jobs that we've held over the years of working with somebody that we just quite didn't gel with. We have that coworker that just really gets on our nerves. We don't want to befriend them. But, you know, I hear stuff like this, and it makes me say to myself, I would never think that it would go to this type of a level. Usually, if you're trying to break the ice with a coworker, because when it's all said and done, you really think about it, I think we all can be in agreement, no matter what type of job we do. The people that we work with, they're somewhat of our work family. They're what we do at home with them when we're away from our own family, when we're away from home. And when you're at work, you know, you want to try to do your best to be on good terms with your coworkers, because who wants to just show up and just go to work and just be quiet and not interact with anybody? That's just going to drag your day out. It's going to make you come off very antisocial. This was definitely a case where these two guys, maybe this all could have been squashed if one of them could have been the bigger man and say, you know what, you and me, I don't understand why we can't get along. We really should maybe after work go grab a beer, or, hey, do you like basketball? Maybe we could go see the Knicks. I got some season tickets. This definitely could have been avoided if there just would have been maybe some type of a mediator or something. But special shout-out to you guys in the New York area that happened to got caught up in that weird fiasco that was going down. our thoughts and prayers are definitely with you. Thoughts and prayers definitely go out to the family involved in the victims. Tragic story right there. But we just thought we'd mention that before we go into today's show, because we know we have a lot of listeners, loyal listeners at that listen to us from the New York area. So we just thought it would only be right to acknowledge what's happening out there. But on a more lighter note, do hope you all are having a fantastic weekend. Everything's been going good at your end so far. We got a jam-packed episode for you guys this afternoon. It's going to be a lot of stuff that we're going to be covering on today's episode. We're going to get you guys caught up with the latest at WWE Raw. We'll get you guys caught up on the latest in TNA Impact Wrestling. Also get you caught up on the latest from this past Friday night's SmackDown, as we also are going to be taking a in-depth look into Brock Lesnar. And it's so funny that we are going to be doing this in-depth look, because apparently just a few days prior to us announcing that we were going to be doing this special in-depth piece, we had heard that WWE.com apparently had released some type of a post on their website saying that there's 5 things that Brock Lesnar has not done in the WWE that he needs to accomplish to officially say that he has done it all. Well, we'll definitely match that up and bring it to you all's attention, as we're definitely going to be talking about who we'd like to see Brock Lesnar take on, as that was one of the cliffhangers that we had said earlier this week, is that there is a roster of young guys that definitely are deserving to rub elbows with the next big thing, Brock Lesnar, and we just thought it would only be fair to bring up these names so that hopefully some of these wrestlers can get somewhat of a rub-off from Lesnar while he's still with the company, because you never know. Stuff happens. Brock Lesnar, he may not re-sign a new deal. You never know. I mean, the money is good. Just over $5 million for 1 year. Rare appearances. I mean, that's good money. But, Brock Lesnar, he's first and foremost a businessman. And you may be shocked to hear this, but Brock Lesnar has one hell of a brain when it comes to doing business, for a guy that just likes to do nothing more than kick back and chill at his farm. So you're definitely going to appreciate that piece when we tackle it later. We also got the long-anticipated review of Fozzy's new album, Sin and Bones, and we also got a review for the new Expendables 2 video game that was released in the PlayStation Network, Xbox Live marketplaces not long ago. We also got a video game review for you guys for Counter-Strike Go. You definitely want to check that out, as it's going to be coming up in the later part of the show. You all can get a jump start right now, as we got our chat room that's open right now. It's live and it's active. Feel free to kick back in there, interact with others that are in the chat room during the course of this episode. And you can also interact with us on Twitter by hitting us up at Infinity1Prod. Also hit us up on Facebook, as we're at Infinity One Productions. So let's go ahead now and let's jump right into it. And, by the way, folks, I'm going to be joined by a special guest in the later part of the show. I've got the lovely co-producer Tammy that definitely wants to chime in her thoughts on what all has been happening with the lovely actress known as Julia Reilly, a.k.a. Miss Claire Lynch. She took a listen to what I had did on this Thursday's Impact Showdown Radio, and she definitely wanted to chime in her thoughts on that as well. So you're definitely going to appreciate that, as we'll bring her in the later part of the show. So we saw WWE Raw from this past Monday, and one of the main highlights that had jumped out at me during this episode, of course, we got to mention the fact that we had saw the WWE champion Brock Lesnar confront Jerry the King Lawler, and he confronted John Cena, as CM Punk would recall Jerry Lawler's words of CM Punk has turned his back on the WWE universe. And CM Punk, you got to bear this in mind. This is still on his mind, as just 24 hours ago at the SummerSlam pay-per-view, he successfully retained his WWE Championship in a triple threat match against Big Show and John Cena. Here he is coming out, and he is demanding an apology from the WWE Hall of Famer, but that apology would go interrupted as John Cena would make his way to the ring. Now, from there, the straight-edge superstar, he clearly let it be obvious that he was not happy with the C-Nation leader interrupting him, and it really got real at the very end of this episode as CM Punk, he pretty much channeled the voice of the WWE Universe, who have been saying for the longest time, including us here on this radio show, that he just continues to be put at the beginning of the show, the middle of the show. He never ends the show. He never ends the pay-per-views. Well, he would bring that up on this installment of Raw as he tells John Cena very candidly that ever since WrestleMania, it seems like he has taken a backseat to Cena, The Rock, Brock Lesnar, even Triple H, and that he didn't mind doing this because he felt he was doing it out of respect. But now the WWE Champion is quick to remind Cena and the WWE Universe just how many times he's defeated John Cena. And with all that, we would hear CM Punk name John Cena to be his challenger for his WWE Championship at the Night of Champions pay-per-view under one condition, and that is you can accept the match only if you admit that CM Punk is the best in the world. Well, John Cena, he would not give Punk this praise. Instead, he would point out how despite not having the WWE Championship in a long time, John Cena is, as far as he's concerned, a 10-time WWE champion that has done everything in his power to win the respect of many, and he also had pointed out how there are those that may not like him, but the one thing that has always been consistent about him is that he always goes out there, he does what he does best, and he's not going to change, he's not going to bend over backwards for anybody. And really classy right here with John Cena, who says, look, I'm willing to sacrifice the number one contendership, but I'm not going to sit up and tell you that you're the best in the world. And he would actually extend an offer to CM Punk and say, look, if you really want to prove that you're the best in the world, then take me on in my home backyard in Boston, Massachusetts at Night of Champions. If you can beat me, then hey, not only will you definitely win and earn my respect, but you will win and earn the long-awaited respect you feel you deserve from all of the WWE Universe, from everybody. So CM Punk was left in the ring with something to think about there seriously. Now, Punk would not follow up on this. Instead, he would turn his attention back to Jerry the King Lawler and ask him to come into the ring and demand the apology once again. Now, Jerry the King Lawler, he would not admit that CM Punk is the best in the world, but he would apologize for saying that CM Punk turned his back on the WWE Universe. CM Punk, he did not find this of satisfactory as he kicked the Memphis King in the back of the head, and that was pretty much it right there. So we got a lot of heat that has been now drawing on CM Punk as a result of this. Definitely a bigger payoff than what we've seen happen with CM Punk within recent weeks, as slowly he has just been morphing into this badass heel. And I got to admit, I love what's happening. I love the slow progression. Let's see it continue. Now, some people would argue that, oh, no, he's not exactly being heel. Well, when you're kicking Jerry the King Lawler and you're receiving the type of reaction that you're getting, I wouldn't exactly say that you're getting a babyface reaction. I mean, we heard so many boos at CM Punk after he kicked Jerry in the back of the head there. I mean, you can't help but sit up and say, okay, this guy's kind of coming off like a tool now. Of course, one of the other main highlights that we had saw from this past Monday Night Raw was Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman coming out and basking in the glory of defeating Triple H at SummerSlam as Brock Lesnar made him tap out. And Brock Lesnar, he would sit up and say that as far as he's concerned, he is the new King of Kings. He has defeated the game, that Triple H is done. They pretty much were just boosting the hell out of this victory. But then we would find out later on in a tout video that Brock Lesnar had shockingly quit the WWE, claiming that he has done everything in the organization, that there is nothing else for him to do. There is nothing else for him to accomplish. Of course, we also saw the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, give his thoughts on Triple H, as he feels that he knew that Triple H was going to be defeated by Brock Lesnar, but that he just did not want to look at his best friend's eyes and tell him the truth, that he felt Hunter needed to experience it for himself. He needed to face his own mortality. He needed to get this defeat to really give him a reality check. And so many people are just wondering right now, just what exactly does the future hold for the game Triple H? Well, we know that WWE Raw coming up very soon will be happening in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and it's already being said that Triple H will be making an appearance at that episode of Raw. So we will know very, very shortly just what the future holds for the King of Kings. But this brings us to a very interesting point right here with regards to Brock Lesnar saying that he has done everything in the WWE, as we go now into the RCWR in-depth report. And WWE.com, they posted a very interesting article up earlier this week talking about how there are 5 things that Brock Lesnar has not done in the WWE that they feel would officially put a bookend to his career. Now, here are the 5 things that they had mentioned. And it goes as follows, folks. Number 1, become general manager. Now, let's just scratch that off the list. There isn't really anything to, what's the exact word that I'm looking for? There isn't anything exactly, Brock Lesnar as a SmackDown or Raw GM, I'm sorry, I'm just not picturing that. I'm having a hard time picturing Brock Lesnar come out in a suit and going to lay down some type of rules on what's going to be happening on that show. I just don't see that happen. Could I maybe see it if Brock Lesnar was maybe pushing the type of attire that he's pushing now and be a GM? No, I just do not see that for Brock Lesnar. So that's very silly. Let's just eliminate that one right now. Now, the second one, beat John Cena. Well, their argument is, yes, Brock Lesnar did beat Cena before several years back during his first run in the WWE as he was quickly moving up the ranks. Brock Lesnar, of course. But they point out that that was then and this is now. Brock Lesnar has not defeated John Cena. And so their argument is that there needs to be a rematch between Brock Lesnar and John Cena. Now, honestly, that would be a third encounter. Personally, I wouldn't mind seeing a best of 3. I wouldn't mind seeing these two guys lock it up one more time. I think that what they did at Extreme Rules was definitely some top-notch quality type of stuff for both of those guys. I definitely would love to see them work with one another one more time. Will it happen? Who knows? But I'm all for that. Of course, WWE, they also mentioned Brock Lesnar taking on a reinvented Rock. Now, this one, I definitely am a little bit on the fence with this one because on the one hand, I'm thinking about how 10 years ago, Brock Lesnar went into SummerSlam and he beat The Rock for the WWE Undisputed Championship. And now you want to talk about possibly a rematch between these two guys. Now, The Rock, I wonder, what is WWE's definition of reinvented Rock? Because this reinvented Rock that we've been seeing, yeah, he's gotten bigger. He's a big movie buff. He's a phenomenon. He's an icon. But do we really want to see this Rock come back to take on Brock Lesnar? Personally, I would not want to see it. And the reason why I don't want to see it, I think if we all go back to this past year's WrestleMania, I think we all will definitely be in agreement that The Rock, despite turning 40 years old, he was a little bit out of steam in his match against John Cena. Now, he did all those months of training, trying to get the ring rust off, and his stamina was definitely not quite up to where it was when we used to see him in the ring on a full-time basis. Now, I'm not saying age has caught up to him. What I'm saying is The Rock needs to be active in the ring more to really come off more polished, because I must admit, when we think about that Rock versus John Cena match and we compare it to matches of yesteryears that The Rock has been in, that match definitely would not be in the top 5, I don't think. I think it would be a little bit lower than that. I mean, that's just my honest analysis of it. I could be wrong. Y'all could disagree, but that's just really my take on that. It wasn't quite the best. I mean, just the name value, you're sold, but when you really think about the match itself, you know, you actually had John Cena that was doing most of the work, trying to carry The Rock, make him look good. So I really would not want to see The Rock take on Brock Lesnar. And Brock Lesnar, you know, he has always been involved in some type of a ring, whether it was working down in New Japan or working in the UFC. I mean, wrestling has remained consistent in this guy's life since he initially walked away from the WWE. Hell, even when he was doing football, I mean, he was still working on his cardio, his stamina. So, you know, this guy definitely is in damn great shape, physically and in ring-wise. So the only way I would want to see these two guys lock it up is if The Rock is actually back for a few months and he can get some of that ring rust off. Then, yeah, maybe. But to just out of nowhere maybe do a bunch of storylines, angles, backstage segments leading up to a Rock versus Brock Lesnar match, I don't know. I think this would be a case where Brock Lesnar would just be carrying the hell out of The Rock, and we don't really want to see that happen again. All right, so next up, WWE says, challenge the streak. Of course, they're talking about The Undertaker. Now, this has been creating a lot of buzz within recent weeks, as a lot of people, they've been sitting up and they've been saying, you know what, ultimately, this is going to be the setup. It's going to be Brock Lesnar taking on The Undertaker at WrestleMania, and it definitely brings up very valid points that we would like to make here. Now, I know some people, they would love to see this happen. Me personally, I don't know, man. I don't want to see this. I don't want to see Brock Lesnar take on The Undertaker. I am feeling at this point that a Brock Lesnar versus Undertaker, yes, for the record, we have seen these two guys lock it up before. Brock Lesnar has beaten The Undertaker before. He beat him in a Hell in a Cell at 2003's No Mercy pay-per-view. But the streak is a different story. Now, you know, I'm fine with Undertaker defending the streak. Don't get me wrong. I don't mind that at all. And seeing Undertaker, just the idea of an Undertaker versus Brock Lesnar, that's not exactly something I want to see, because I already know in my heart that Undertaker is going to win. I just feel that it would be a waste to do that. But then when you flip the script, you ask, well, who else could Undertaker possibly face at WrestleMania for the streak? Everybody has already let it be known that they're tired of Triple H. They do not want to see another encounter. Now, I agree with that completely, because when you do the math and you really think about it, Triple H has had the pleasure of taking on Undertaker's streak now 3 times. So, no, there really should not be another encounter for these two men. And unfortunately, there really isn't anybody on the roster that could take on the streak except John Cena. Now, personally, I wouldn't mind seeing John Cena take on The Undertaker's streak. I just feel that if, at this point, you should go with somebody that's younger. And I'm really, really thinking about it now. And I've actually been thinking about it for a few days. Brock Lesnar, Undertaker, it does nothing for nobody. But to have John Cena go into a match with Undertaker and possibly be the one to end the streak, that would just prove a lot of things to a lot of people. One, off the break, is that Vince McMahon, it would show his appreciation for John Cena. It would show everything that he loves about John Cena, all the hard work, dedication that he's put in over the years. I just kind of look at that as a big thank you for John Cena to pick up a win over Undertaker on the grandest stage of them all. Now, I'm not saying it doesn't have to play out like that, but if they were thinking about ending the streak, what better candidate than John Cena? I mean, he's got plenty of years left in his tank. I don't know if he'll be able to go at the rate that he's going with this current gimmick, but he definitely has plenty of years left in him to give back to the WWE. But Brock Lesnar, Undertaker, no. I would have to just scratch that off. It's not going to do anything for anybody. Unfortunately, Brock Lesnar would just be another victim. Then we, the WWE fans, we would have the unfortunate displeasure of having to wait for another Undertaker DVD, greatest hits package, where they'll include that Brock Lesnar match, which really just defeats the whole purpose of buying those Undertaker streaks when you think about it. So the very last thing that WWE brings up is win the World Heavyweight Championship. Now, somehow this has eluded Brock Lesnar's illustrious career for the short time that he was in the WWE. Now, you know what? I am all for that. That's something that he has not done. And when you think about all the other things that Brock Lesnar has done over the years, this would definitely be a nice way to put a nice bookend on his career, as so many great men have had the pleasure of holding that belt. I mean, Ric Flair, Goldberg, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, Harley Race. So many great wrestlers have held on to that title over the years. And for Brock Lesnar to be able to grab that belt, I mean, that belt, if he were to win that, it would definitely put some legitimacy and some credibility back into that championship. Now, just for you guys that aren't quite familiar with everything that Brock Lesnar has accomplished in the WWE, I want you to bear this in mind. He's a 3-time WWE champion. He's a one-time King of the Ring winner. He's a one-time Royal Rumble winner. He is a one-time OVW Southern Tag Team Champion. He's a three-time OVW Southern Tag Team Champion with Shelton Benjamin. And he's a one-time IWGP Heavyweight Champion. So, I mean, this guy, he's really been out there. He can really lay claim to that Johnny Cash song, I've Been Everywhere, Man. So, for that title to be around his waist and go on his resume, that would definitely do him some good, which would bring us to our next point, which is with a WWE roster that's somewhat lacking in new stars, is there possibly any type of a way Brock Lesnar can work with newer talent? Because let's look at the people that he's been facing so far since he's been back, and it just seems like, what was it, the night after WrestleMania, we saw Brock Lesnar return to the WWE, and so he's been back now, what's that? WrestleMania was in April, so May, June, July, August, we're pretty much going into September, so you might as well just say 5 months. He's only faced Triple H, John Cena. That's it. So that really hasn't been doing much for the WWE as a whole. It's been doing good for two guys that have not been in the title chase scene for a good while, but it's not really doing anything for the talent. Now, it may be pulling in the revenue on the pay-per-view buys, DVD buys, attendance. It might be pulling in numbers for that, but the younger talent, unfortunately, are not getting a rub-off from this. And I just kind of feel that if you're going to use Brock Lesnar right, use him right. I mean, yes, the guy is 35 years old, and you know what? The guy's got plenty of freaking years left in him. I mean, honestly, with the way he looks, he could be doing this until he's maybe 45 years old, okay? Let's talk about some of the guys that I feel Brock Lesnar should be working with right about now, as I feel that not only will he have a really great program with them, but it would also give that needed rub-off to some of these guys that definitely could use it to help elevate them to that next level. Not to mention, it would just be great for TV. It'd be great for pay-per-views. So let's kick it off. The first guy I got on here, and I mentioned this guy, I feel he's an honorable mention because he's done so much in the WWE over the years. We saw him in some of the most crappiest gimmicks. We saw him do some comedy type of stuff. We saw him have one of the most impressive runs as a world heavyweight champion. He's currently sidelined on injury right now, but it's said that he should be coming back very shortly, and he's looking better than ever. He's been losing a ton of weight. He's been taking this latest injury that he had very seriously. Best I've seen him in years. I am eagerly anticipating his return, and that's Mark Henry. I think that Brock Lesnar, Mark Henry, I think that both of these two guys, they would put on one freaking fantastic match. I mean, can you just imagine the story angle that could just come out of that? I mean, we have Brock Lesnar who's going around destroying people left and right, destroying half of a WWE roster, and I'm just thinking shades of Mark Henry, because back when he was the World Heavyweight Champion, he was pretty much operating the same way. I mean, hell, this is the same guy who made Big Show look like a punk way before Big Show started pushing this heel run that he's been pushing within recent months. How badass would it be to see the Silverback challenge the next big thing? I mean, these guys would definitely have a pretty great feud that could be told very beautifully if written right. And their match would definitely be on point. A lot of people, they don't want to give Mark Henry his props, but Mark Henry, he can definitely put on a damn good match. The only key thing is the weight. If he can keep some of that weight off, and like I said, he's been losing a ton of weight. Last we checked, he's lost about at least almost 40 pounds. The guy looks really freaking good. If he can keep that weight off, that's definitely going to help him because he's going to be able to move quicker. He's going to be more agile. That would definitely help him with taking on Brock Lesnar. And let's just look at the age difference here, which really makes this even more cool, I think. It should be a no-brainer to have these guys team up. I mean, we got Brock Lesnar, who's at 35 years old, and we got Mark Henry, who's 41. So we got, 36, 37, 39, 40, 6-year difference, basically. I think these two guys, they would definitely be going at a nice little pace, but that would still be a good pace that would keep fans really into it. Definitely I would like to see these two guys get it on, even if Mark Henry were to lose to Brock Lesnar. I just think it would be a really good rub-off for Mark Henry, who's already let it be known that he's into his final days right now with the WWE, that he has been thinking about retiring. And when you just think about that all-amateur wrestling background that Brock Lesnar has, and you just think about the powerlifting, Olympic weightlifter, strongman background that Mark Henry has, it would definitely be a freaking great contest right here. So that's my honorable mention right there for Mark Henry. Now, also, another guy that I've been eyeballing as of late is Randy Orton. Now, to my knowledge, and I could be wrong here, and if I'm wrong, that's okay. To my knowledge, I don't recall a Randy Orton ever locking up with Brock Lesnar. Now, if that is really the case, then these two guys would definitely put on one fantastic match, I feel. And, you know, it's one of those things that's happening right now where you got Randy Orton, who just recently returned from his wellness violation, and he is still in that picture for the title, but he's not really there. He's just there doing what he needs to do, but he's not really there. I think you guys know what I'm talking about. You all can definitely agree. He needs something to do. He needs something that can kind of tie his hands a little bit. He kind of needs that John Cena treatment, if you will. John Cena may not have the title, but he's involved in some pretty good matches. So I think this needs to be the same thing that should happen with Randy Orton. And I would definitely love to see Randy Orton and Brock Lesnar get it on. Now, here's a scenario where Randy Orton, he would get such a great rub-off from Brock Lesnar. I mean, if he were to lose, if Brock Lesnar were to lose to Randy Orton, that would be a really great rub-off for Randy Orton. These two guys, they would definitely have some pretty great matches. I can already just imagine the storylines right there that would be happening, especially if Randy Orton were maybe to try to go back to adopting the legend killer gimmick that he had going on, and he could kind of consider Brock Lesnar to be a legend of all the things that he's accomplished, and he's looking to add him to that list. I mean, I think that would just be freaking phenomenal right there. Not to mention, if there was ever a time that the tag team division could use a little help right now, how cool would it be to see Brock Lesnar maybe team up with Randy Orton, and the two of these guys, they could sit up and they could take those WWE tag team titles and take it to the next level. I mean, it would definitely be a damn good tag team right there. So either way, you notice how I'm doing it. You see, I'm pairing up Brock Lesnar with a younger guy that he can definitely give that rub-off to that WWE would need. And see, you can either play it that way, or you can play it in a way of what I just said with the tag team division, and you can really help put that tag team division on the map. I mean, let's be for real here. There's just no way Brock Lesnar is going to win a World Heavyweight title or a WWE title, not with the current contract that he has, especially if he's able to sign a new deal that is basically going to be the same way. There's really no way you can put one of those main two belts around his waist. So unfortunately, you have to utilize him in a better way. And what better way to utilize him than putting the tag belts on him? I think that would just make a little more sense. At least that way, that can kind of explain the, hey, why isn't the belt being defended on a regular basis? And it could just kind of be one of those running gags that Brock Lesnar will only defend those tag belts when he's good and ready. So we could always kind of see a scenario where Randy Orton's always saying, yeah, I'm talking to Brock. We talk weekly. Yeah. I'll see next week. I think it'd be kind of a little funny thing that'd be going on right there. I don't know what y'all think about that, but that's just how I'm looking at it right there. I'm thinking about how Brock can give a proper rub-off to some of these guys, and that brings me to the next guy on the list right here, Sheamus. The man's man, the Irishman, the fighting champion, the man that's always willing to fight a good fight. Here's a freaking guy right here. He has just quietly just been going in, week out, month in, month out, pay-per-view after pay-per-view. He has just been defending the hell out of that World Heavyweight Championship. World Heavyweight Championship or not, this man has just been the freaking beast. There is no one I would love to see work with Brock Lesnar more than Sheamus. I mean, can you guys just imagine how physical their encounters would be? I mean, you don't even have to make this be a one-time deal. You do this right, you could stretch these guys out for like 3-4 months, and it could all just be straight-up one-on-one singles matches. The fans will definitely eat it up, especially if they increase in the game every single time they lock it up, somewhat similar to what's been happening with Sheamus and Del Rio within recent months, how past 3 times they've hooked up, it's all been singles matches, but each one has topped each other. Same thing can happen right here between Sheamus and Brock Lesnar. I definitely want to see this happen. You know, we're talking about Undertaker possibly taking on Brock Lesnar, and I can understand the storyline of that perfectly. I can understand how Undertaker would just slide on in there, and maybe he would kind of give a little pep talk to Triple H and say, you know, you can't beat this guy yet. You're the one that came so close to beating me at WrestleMania. I can definitely see that angle right there, and I can understand why they're probably wanting to go with Undertaker in this case, but I would give so much money to see a Sheamus take on a Brock Lesnar. I just think that right there has really great potential. One other guy that I'm looking at, Wade Barrett. I mean, this guy, before he got injured, this guy definitely was on one hell of a roller coaster. What was it, 6-8 months ago or whatever? I mean, he was just, he was moving up the ranks pretty fast. I mean, right up to the point that originally he was supposed to win Money in the Bank. I mean, that's how important this guy was starting to become to the WWE until he had got that unfortunate injury. Well, we're hearing he's still going to get his push when he returns. But I'm just thinking ahead here, and I'm just thinking how nice would it be to see Wade Barrett, and he's got this brawler background and all that. How badass would it be to see him work a program with Brock Lesnar? And this doesn't have to be a match where, oh, my God, which side do we choose? Who do we cheer for? Who do we boo? It doesn't even have to be that. It could just be two guys that basically don't like each other, and they just want to get it on, plain and simple. That would be a good rub-off right there. These are just a few names that just jump out at me right now, and unfortunately there really isn't that many guys in the WWE that can go toe-to-toe with Brock Lesnar right now. So these names that I pick, I just really feel that if handled right, they can definitely be utilized correctly. Hopefully, in the months to come, we'll see some of these names have the opportunity to work with Brock Lesnar, and it's not a case where he is just working with veteran guys, because I would hate to see after Undertaker, Brock Lesnar then works with The Rock, and then after that, who knows, maybe he tries to work with Chris Jericho. You know, I don't really want to see all that right now. I mean, hell, we had Shawn Michaels come back in his mid-30s, and he gave us some amazing wrestling all the way up until he retired recently. You know, this is definitely no exception. I understand Lesnar does not want to work a rigorous schedule. I'm all for that, but at the same time, I'm also looking at it from WWE's standpoint and kind of saying to myself, how exactly can they get the most out of him, and how can the company overall, as well as the talent, can benefit from him. So hopefully we'll see some changes in the next coming months. But we definitely wanted to just mention that. Hopefully you guys appreciate that. Also, one more name that jumps out at me. I can't believe I almost let him slip. Daniel Bryan. I mean, there's a true David and Goliath story right there, man. I mean, those two guys, pure freaking wrestling backgrounds right there. Those guys would have a freaking fantastic match. I'm telling you. I mean, God, can you just imagine Daniel Bryan Danielson taking on Brock Lesnar? That would just be freaking amazing, especially with the size of Brock Lesnar. You know what Daniel Bryan Danielson's mentality is going to be as he's taking on Brock Lesnar. He's just going to be thinking about speed. That's all he's going to be thinking about. Very classic match this would be right here. All right, so that's going to do it for that special RCWR in-depth look. Let's also get you guys caught up on what had happened in TNA Impact from this past Thursday night, as we had saw some pretty cool, interesting stuff right there. And, of course, the main highlight was Aces and Eights accepting Sting's challenge to meet Mano a Mano in the ring. Now, we would see Aces and Eights. They would sit up throughout the course of the night. They basically got their asses handed to them, as at the start of the show, we saw two members of Aces and Eights. They come down to the ring. They get beat up. Later on during the course of the night, we see more members of Aces and Eights. They're getting beat up. Everybody is just getting beat up from Aces and Eights, and we also saw the return of Hulk Hogan with Sting, as they had also took out a few members of Aces and Eights. And this all was basically Aces and Eights' plan, was to distract and isolate, because their true intentions would be revealed to be none other than somehow being alone with the TNA World Heavyweight Champion in Austin Aries and setting him up so that they could do some serious harm to him. And that is exactly what had happened this past Thursday night, as we saw pretty much the entire TNA roster fighting members of Aces and Eights, as their members in that gang, it is just massively big. I mean, it is in double digits, folks. And as we saw all these guys taking on Aces and Eights in the back, we saw perhaps what would be considered the main leader of Aces and Eights come down, and he just dominated the hell out of RVD, Austin Aries, Jeff Hardy, and he sat up and played quarterback as he directed traffic, telling the other members to set up Austin Aries as they set up his hand through a metal guard rail from the crowd section, and they proceeded to take steel chairs to that hand, and it looks like Austin Aries is severely injured right now. Of course, one of the other highlights that we saw from this past Thursday night's Impact Wrestling, we had finally saw the conclusion of the Claire Lynch storyline as AJ Styles was revealed to not be the baby daddy. Of course, we all knew this, and as I said in a special in-depth piece about what had happened with Claire Lynch, we would really find out that Claire Lynch, she just was fed up with TNA. She didn't like the fact that her personal life was being invaded. She didn't like some of the harassing emails, messages that she was getting from people in social media, forum boards, and, I had said my piece about that. For you guys that did not check out this past Thursday night's Impact Showdown Radio, I highly recommend that you check it out. It was probably one of the strongest episodes of Impact Showdown that we did so far, as I was very candid about that. And I know the lovely co-producer Tammy, she definitely wanted to chime in her thoughts on what had happened with this whole Claire Lynch thing, because I know co-producer Tammy, you and me were talking about it when we had first heard what had happened with Claire Lynch, or a.k.a. Julia Reilly. I definitely would like for you to share your thoughts on what all had happened with her.
Well, honestly, for me, I have mixed reviews, more review on the fact that if she really wanted to keep her private life private, she shouldn't have come to a major stage like that. Because when you do that, you open a can of worms for everybody who wants to know anything about you to be able to search for it. And if that's the case, then you know what? You're really bringing it on yourself, unfortunately for her. If you can't, honestly, there's a saying, if you can't deal with the heat, stay out of the kitchen. And unfortunately, she didn't do that.
Yeah. I was very candid about her. I was very candid about TNA and them going this route that they went. But, one thing, Tammy, that eluded me, and it's one of those sad situations, again, where it makes me sad to be a wrestling fan, to be a fan of wrestling, because we have all these people that, unfortunately, as far advanced as our technology is, as far as social media is, as far as being able to acquire information at just a snap of a finger, we unfortunately still are living in a time where we have people that cannot separate reality from non-reality. We unfortunately have those core group of people that feel wrestling is real, and that the storylines that they are seeing, that the characters that they are seeing, they are not able to separate fact and fiction. And it's very unfortunate because, one thing that eluded me from this past Thursday night's Impact Showdown Radio, and I love the fact that we are going to be back doing our weekend editions of the RCWR Show Saturdays, because whatever I don't catch up saying on those two shows, we're definitely going to hit a home run on the weekend report. And that's the fans that sat up and they sent her those hateful messages. I even heard that they had sent her death threats. They were bashing this character that she was portraying, and I'm sitting up and I'm saying to myself, okay, you know what? I can respect the wrestling fan that sits up and they get in contact with Spike TV. They send an email. They send an email to TNA, to Dixie Carter. They give them a tweet They hit them up on Facebook. I can understand the massive amounts of social media support telling TNA to basically ditch this storyline, ditch this actress. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. Okay? But when you sit up and you go on a person's website that's in their own real name, and then you go to their YouTube channel that is in their own name, you hit them up on their Facebook that's on their own real name, and you are just bombarding them with all this hateful messages, okay? First off, you obviously have some type of intellect because you're in front of a computer, okay? So you know how to find something, so that lets me know you're smart. Second of all, you know that this person is not named Claire Lynch. You know this person has an actual real name. You know what they really do outside of professional wrestling. And yeah, you're sitting up and you're sending them death threats. You're sitting up and you're wishing them harm. Okay? When I hear stuff like that, it drives me insane. It makes me put my head down in shame and be embarrassed to be a wrestling fan, because it's bad enough we have those core people that are out there that always frown upon wrestling. They will sit up and they will say, oh, that's fake. They constantly will say that wrestling fans have no intellect, that wrestling fans are some of the most dumbest people that you will ever come across, that wrestling fans are nothing more than dumb hillbilly rednecks.
Yeah, I honestly disagree with the stigma. You know, some people have the unfortunate thing of they can't separate fact and fiction. You know, they see what they see, and that's real to them. That's unfortunate, because the people who do have intellect know that, okay, I'm not really watching it because I know it's fake, but I'm watching it because of the dance, the storyline, this wrestler with this wrestler, and, the art of the sport, and that's what it is. It's a sport. You are making it a sport, and you are dealing with a storyline. So you're putting a storyline with the sport. Thus, this is wrestling. It's not, oh, well, it's just a whole bunch of sweaty guys in, tights, around a ring. It's not like that. I mean, honestly, and that's an offense to the people who do watch it, who are very intellectual and do have other things that they do besides that, and whatever their other jobs or life or whatever. That's a bad bashing for them, because they want to watch it as either let off some steam, or they want to do it for the story, or whatever have you. And the fact that they are bashing this woman that much to where she's afraid for her own life. I mean, I understand that she's, not the greatest, but really, that's just carrying it, I'm sorry, too far, way too far. I mean, you really need to back off if that's the case. I kind of understand what you're saying. You know what? Send some mail to Spike, send some mail to Dixie, send some mail to TNA, and say, you know what? We really need to squash this because we can't stand her. If they had done that and continued to do that, TNA would have had no choice but to set up and take notice and say, okay, wait a minute, let me think. We might need to reevaluate this, because our fans are sending us a message to say we don't want this kind of stuff anymore.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And I mean, it's unfortunate that she had to do that, that she had to quit the company. I just, when I first heard the news and I still stand behind my report. On the one hand, you got to have that tough skin. No doubt about it. You're going to deal with criticism. You're going to deal with stuff like that. Lord knows, Tammy, how many nights you, me, Zed, we sit up and we're uploading the latest episodes of the RCWR Show, Impact Showdown Radio, the RCWR Post Show, and we're uploading them up to YouTube. And Lord only knows. I mean, I got you guys all calming me down every single time I see a negative comment come my way. And, I'm always sitting up. Because I'm one of those type of people. I'm a perfectionist. So if I make a mistake on something or if there's something that is kind of lacking, I'm one of those type of people. I do very good accepting criticism. But, when you come at me with, TNA sucks or this show sucks or, I'm saying to myself, wait a minute now. We're winning in numbers. We have a very loyal fan base. Okay. You all are constantly telling me these guys are just trolls. They want nothing more than to sit up and they want to cause mischief. They want to be negative. They want to be a big, bad bully behind the keyboard and say all kinds of shit. And it goes back to what you all said and what I say, which is, if you see something on TV you don't like, change the damn channel. Same thing goes for our shows. If you're on YouTube and you don't like what you hear, hey, no harm done. That doesn't mean you go out of your way and you leave a comment, not unless you're going to leave constructive criticism. If you're not going to leave constructive criticism, you're just going to leave hate mail, hate messages. Save the drama. Save the drama because it's not going to get approved, for one. So you're wasting typing right there. And then, two, it's like, why go through all that unnecessary stuff? Why? It's totally, it's pointless, So you sit up and you hear this type of stuff from these people that are sitting up and, they do her the way that they do her. And on the one hand, and we had to learn the hard way. I had to learn the hard way. We can't always take what some of these people are saying to the core because when we do, we're letting them win.
Absolutely.
We're letting them win. We have to have tough skin. We have to be better than that. And here you have these people who are just bashing Claire Lynch. Same rules apply to her. She has to have that tough skin. But on the flip side to that, I just feel ashamed as a wrestling fan to know that there are people that are out there that unfortunately cannot separate fact from fiction. Even when the information is right in front of their face. I mean, Tam, you and me, we saw the little cookware infomercial that she did. And we're saying to ourselves, okay, who are we to sit up and take it to the core of not liking somebody to the point that we're going to go outside of their profession, of what we see on TV, and we're going to hit them where it counts the most, at home, in their personal life, and basically sabotage how they're possibly putting food on the table, a roof over their back. Who are we to do that?
We're not.
It's not all right.
Yep.
A comparison to this would be to bring it up to a stripper. A stripper, all these guys, a lot of people are just under the impression that because you go to a strip club and you see the stripper, they're stripping, they're showing their tatas, they're showing everything, that means they're a freak, that means they're a whore, that means they're easy, they'll do drugs, they'll do all types of crazy stuff, when in actuality, surprisingly, they're just doing that just to get money. In a lot of cases, it's they're in college, and that's just their way of paying the bills. Or, hey, times are tough right now. They're having a hard time finding a job. I mean, Tammy, you and me, had recalled that one storyline where there was a woman who was married to her husband for like about 30 years, and times were tough because of the economy. She had a hard time finding work. She had no choice but to go into stripping. And, you know, it really had opened up our eyes and say, you know what, this isn't how it used to be years and years and years ago. Yeah, you still have some of those stereotypes running around, but it's not quite how it used to be. The point is, just because you see that stripper, it doesn't mean that that's exactly how they are in real life.
Because they're, as just as the wrestlers are, they're a performer. Mm-hmm. They have their own personal life outside of anything they do in front of the camera or on the stage. You know, these people could be girlfriends, your mother, your sister. I mean, you really don't know who they are outside of their profession.
Right. Right. You know, and to take it to the point where you follow that, you know, same analogy here, folks. I hope you all are staying with us. The same way you look at that stripper, you're trying to get to know them, and you end up following them home. You're trying to learn all you can about them and all this other type of stuff. You're trying to dig up stuff and all that. It's like, stop, because now you're reaching a territory that can be considered a bit insanity.
Mm-hmm. Stalking and unwanted.
Right. And with regards to Claire Lynch, this is exactly what kind of had happened to her. You know, now it's stupid for TNA to have sat up and did what they did and hired her on those grounds. You know, I mean, they hired her literally just right around the freaking corner. I mean, it's a little silly what they did right there. But, you know, it's just one of those things where, you know, on the one hand, I'm happy that the storyline is over. I'm happy that she's off TV. But now that more information has come to light and we know that basically the cyberbullying and all that, it really got to her, you know, my heart does go out to her because it's like, man, that's kind of messed up. You know, you do have to have a tough skin. Males, not a problem. You know, some females, especially female adults that aren't really used to that type of exposure, yeah, the pressure will probably get to them to the point where they will probably do exactly what she had did, you know, and it's very unfortunate, you know. But my message to some of you wrestling fans out there, some of you need help, okay? And, you know, I know you guys are better than that. Really, I know you guys are better than that. We have this stigma that's going on right now that we're nothing but dumb, we're stupid. You know, we can't tell reality from non-reality. I know we're better than that with the age that we live in now with social media and just the way how hot the internet has become within recent years. You know, when we want to really know the scoop on what's happening with a wrestler, why we haven't seen them on TV, or why did they lose this match when they should have won? We know how to get that information, okay? So why are we sitting up and hating a person to the point that we want to try to find out what's going on in their personal life and try to use it in some type of way to fuck them over? That's just cruelty. That's just malice, you know. Don't operate like that, man. Don't. You know, like I said before, Tammy, you and me, we always say it. We can't stress it enough. You see something on TV you don't like, just change the channel, write an email, tweet it out. Let your voices be heard that way. When you take it to the point that you're following somebody on their personal Facebook, their Twitter, all that stuff, and you're coming at them like that, you're doing a form of cyberstalking. And if you do it to the point that it could cause that person involved to do seriously harm to themselves, there is a way now, and they are really starting to enforce this in all the states, that, you know, they can now arrest you for cyberbullying.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
They know how to track your IP address.
Mm-hmm.
You're left with the impression that, oh, I can get away with anything. I can do this, I can do that, but I guarantee your ass, if that person kills themselves, they do some type of harm to them, they got your ass. Guess what? That IP address that you think is, I'm good. I can just turn off the computer. I can just disconnect. Nah, dumbass. They got an IP address on you. They know where you live. You think they won't come get you. You're afforded that luxury. You're given that belief. But when you cause harm to somebody, all bets are off.
That's right. Even as much as people don't want to admit it or don't want to think about it, I mean, truly, with all the connections and things that we have now, it is Big Brother. It is Big Brother. There's always somebody watching you or what have you. Not the only time they're not going, that it's going to even come up is if something bad happens. But there's always a way to get information if something happens that's bad enough. Yeah.
That was a keep it real segment right there. Our motto, always keeping it real. We definitely had to go in depth with that because, Tammy, I was just pretty hot-headed because I was writing up the aftermath of what I had saw Impact Wrestling, how they had wrote off her character, and I was writing up the little report that I had did. I was giving a retrospective look on her, and I had happened to come across that latest piece of news, and I was like, really? I'm like, really? Oh, I'm like, no, and it just had me so freaking furious, and I just had to get that off my chest. So hopefully, message sent and delivered.
Well, we're glad you got that off your chest.
I think it was good talk anyway. I like it when we do little stuff like that. It really, makes us look good because, we've been seeing some of you all's comments for the show in the iTunes marketplaces, and, some of you guys have taken the liberty of giving us a review. We appreciate those type of comments. We love that. So if you do check it out in iTunes, Zune marketplaces, don't be shy. Feel free. Put in those reviews. We love it. Let's get you guys caught up on what had happened in a nutshell on SmackDown in our SmackDown Reloaded report, where, Tammy, we had saw Alberto Del Rio hot-headed, pissed from his loss to Sheamus at the SummerSlam pay-per-view, looking to have another match against Sheamus for the World Heavyweight Championship. But we would also see Randy Orton lay claim that, hey, maybe he should be the new number one contender to face Sheamus. Sheamus, he didn't have a problem with that. He loved the idea of taking on Randy Orton, but Booker T, he would quickly lay down the gauntlet, and he would let Randy Orton know that, hey, I definitely would like to see that happen. Originally, Alberto Del Rio, he was going to be named the number one contender, but since he's coming out here, he's running his mouth, we're now going to see a main event match, which saw Randy Orton take on Alberto Del Rio for the number one contender spot to face Sheamus at Night of Champions. And we would actually see Alberto Del Rio pick up the victory. He had a little bit of help from Ricardo Rodriguez, as we would see Alberto Del Rio win via submission. Post-match is where it really got funny, because we see Ricardo Rodriguez and Alberto Del Rio, they're taunting at Sheamus to come in the ring, and we see Sheamus, he goes in, and he starts attacking Del Rio, but the numbers game, it was just too much, as Ricardo, as always, he plays his role into the whole mix. And that shoe, I don't know what's been going on, but the past 2 weeks now, Ricardo's shoe has been coming into play, as Ricardo takes off his shoe, gives it to Del Rio. Del Rio glocks him over the head with it, leaves Sheamus laying there on the ground. We see the two of them, they're walking off. And guess who pops up, folks? It's none other than Mr. Show-Off himself, Dolph Ziggler, who quickly comes down to the ring, is thinking about cashing in that Money in the Bank briefcase. And it goes as far as him giving the briefcase to the referee, and the referee is about to give it to, I believe it was Tony Chimel. And the bell was about to be rung, but Ziggler realizes that Sheamus was not weakened enough. He quickly grabs his briefcase. He hauls ass. Actually, I'm trying to think here. Actually, something happened in between here. Wait a minute. Let me backtrack. I'm remembering off the top of my brain, folks. That's the cool part about this show. It's not scripted. We actually did see Randy Orton attack Dolph Ziggler. Yeah, it's coming back to me now. We saw Dolph Ziggler. He runs down to the ring. He tries to cash in the briefcase, but Randy Orton delivers an RKO to him. And we see Sheamus, who finally starts to come to, and he just really has no clue, Tammy, just how close he came to losing his World Heavyweight Championship to Dolph Ziggler. And, Tammy, I definitely want to get your thoughts now that the dust has settled and we know now who the number one contender is going to be to face Sheamus. It's Alberto Del Rio again. If my math is not mistaken, this will now be, I believe, the fourth consecutive pay-per-view that, third or fourth, I'm leaning more towards four, but God, it just seems like it's so freaking many times that these two guys are hooking up. Are you sold on seeing Sheamus and Del Rio go at it one more time?
No, not really. And not only that, I mean, the sidekick, what is he even doing in the match? Why is, even there interfering? I mean, does Del Rio need that much help that he needs a sidekick?
Apparently so, yeah.
Well, honestly, if that's the case, then maybe they should put the belt on the sidekick.
I know you didn't just go there. Yeah,
but, for me, no, I don't think that it should be another match, especially so soon, because, honestly, you leave the fans going, again?
Mhm.
And it's like, honestly, I think I would have preferred that they went a different direction. I know that that's Vince McMahon's boy, but I think they need to stretch it out a little bit, and honestly, his arrogance and sometimes, not all, sometimes his lack of skill, it's a bit of a throw-off.
I don't know. I mean, how do you top what they did at SummerSlam? I mean, that was probably one of their best encounters yet. How do you top that? I mean, and I've been saying it at least for the past 2 months that we've seen these two guys lock it up, and I definitely can't stress it enough now. Unless WWE is going to add a third man into this mix just to spice it up by throwing Randy Orton in there and making it a triple threat match, then the only way I can see this Sheamus versus Del Rio to be even remotely more entertaining than what they just did at SummerSlam and silence the people that are going to sit up and say, again, is to make it a gimmick match. I mean, let's see these two guys maybe be in a last man standing, a steel cage match.
I, for one, would like to see him go through a table.
Oh, all right, well, a tables match. I mean, I'm really trying to be very unbiased here, but I am just sitting up and I'm saying to myself, I'm ready for a new rivalry. You know?
I agree.
I'm ready for a new rivalry. I want to see Sheamus move on. Let's see him take on somebody else, I mean, God, we got Randy Orton. My God, what is going on with Wade Barrett? I mean, come on already. Return, because he was definitely making his presence felt on the SmackDown roster. That's another one I want to see, really come back, because he definitely would help shape things up a bit on the SmackDown side. Can't wait for him to come back. But, God, we need all the help we can get on the SmackDown roster, because we can only take but so much of Sheamus versus Alberto Del Rio. Hopefully in the upcoming weeks leading up into the Night of Champions pay-per-view, we can somehow see it be portrayed on TV, maybe by Booker T, that this is it. This will be the final time that Alberto Del Rio takes on Sheamus, that if he doesn't get the job done, that's it. He's not going to get another shot. So as long as Alberto Del Rio, so as long as Sheamus is the World Heavyweight Champion, Alberto Del Rio will no longer get another shot.
Mm-hmm. I think they really should have another feud, with two separate people for each of them.
Yeah.
Because it's, I know they're hurting, with the wrestlers that they have, but you got to be able to do something. I mean, even if it's just, like you said, a gimmick match, just enough to keep the fans interested. Because if they come out and they do another match that's not even as good as SummerSlam, the fans are going to lose interest.
Yeah.
Because, they've done that. They've already been there. So, okay, so this is just a rehash.
Yeah. And, Tammy, we definitely got to acknowledge that for at least a third consecutive week now, Damien Sandow, SmackDown, So it is really looking like Damien Sandow is starting to become more exclusive to the Raw brand. I called it. Can't stress it enough. I called this early on. Within the first 3 weeks that this guy had made his debut on SmackDown, I called it. And, I wish Raw would stop doing that. I mean, don't just have these SmackDown guys that look impressive to you and say, oh, we got to just keep them on Raw. SmackDown will be all right. No, because now you're thinning it out. It's kind of like when you open a jar of some really good Prego or Ragu sauce, and you put it in there, and you put the noodles in there, and you're sitting up and you're saying, oh, man, I didn't get enough sauce. What do I do now? And you're like, well, let me add a couple cups of water in here. And you got to watch it, because if you put too much water in there, it's going to be too thinned out. It's not going to be the same. It's not going to have that same kick to it. And SmackDown is as good as the product is, and a lot of times it's better than Raw. They're going to reach that point where they're going to be thinning out on, okay, well, who can we have the World Heavyweight Champion take on next? I'm very curious to see what's going to happen when Wade Barrett returns, what's going to happen when Mark Henry returns. Hopefully the right thing is done, and both of those guys, they go right to SmackDown.
Definitely. Just like you said, when you thin it out too much, I understand that you want to make Raw the stronger of the two, but in doing so, unfortunately, you're really taking some thunder from SmackDown, and honestly, they're both WWE products, so I don't quite understand why they, are so concerned with Raw. Do I understand to a point? Yes, I do. Right. But product-wise, I do think that SmackDown is better. Yeah. And the way, the formatting, and just, I don't know, I do enjoy watching SmackDown more than I do Raw at times. But, yeah, they definitely need to get some of their people back and beef it up a little bit.
Yeah, and I'm just going to say these names, and we'll move on and quickly highlight the rest of what happened on SmackDown. But Mark Henry, Wade Barrett, Christian, I need to see those three guys go back. I need to see them be exclusively on SmackDown. I am all fine Raw keeping Damien Sandow. If they don't want him doing double duty, okay, that's fine. I respect that. But you got to help out the SmackDown brand, because they really need all the help they can get. Unless this time around you're going to put the championship on Alberto Del Rio, I don't see the reason why you haven't be involved in another main event pay-per-view. So, that's we're just going to leave it right there. I think we've stayed on that topic long enough, but it was still a very interesting topic. Other key highlights that we had saw on this past Friday night SmackDown, we saw Ryback finally get his hands on Jinder Mahal, who week after week after week, it seemed like he was eluding that ass beating that was definitely going to be coming to him. Ryback, he finally was able to get his hands on Jinder Mahal, and he was finally able to defeat him in a clean finish. Very curious what's going to happen from here on out, if this is the end of their little rivalry or if it's still just getting started. And one of the other main highlights that we had saw on this past Friday night SmackDown, we had saw a very cool tag team segment. And this was personally one of my favorites. It was a backstage segment where we had just seen R-Truth, Kofi Kingston. They had just beat Epico and Primo. And a few minutes later, we see a backstage segment with Matt Striker, who is talking with R-Truth, Kofi Kingston, and asking them, hey, now that you've defeated Primo, Epico, hey, you guys actually just came off of a title defense at SummerSlam, who would you all like to take on next? What's the future for the tag team division? And R-Truth, Kofi Kingston, they basically would say that, hey, they aren't really sure what's to come, but that they welcome all challengers. And we would see the primetime players, they would let their voices be heard, that pretty soon they will be taking those tag titles off of them, as that's what their main agenda is right now. They want to be tag team champions. But we would also see Jim and Jey Uso. They would chime in their thoughts. We would also see Justin Gabriel and Tyson Kidd chime in their thoughts. We would also see Primo and Epico jump in there as well. And all hell, Tammy, just started breaking loose. Even though this was a backstage segment, I loved it. It was one of my favorite highlights of the night because it was kind of like WWE's way of saying, oh, yeah, by the way, we have a tag team, and it's been building.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was really loving that. You know, I love seeing all those different tag teams. You know, you almost forget how many tag teams they have, and I just really loved how they just sat up and kind of acknowledged we have a tag team division. I'm very curious to see what's going to happen with those tag team belts. I would love to see all of those tag teams get it on at Night of Champions. I think that would be freaking phenomenal. Put them all out there. Let's see them do some work. That would be pretty awesome. Weakest moment of the night for SmackDown, we saw the United States champion, Santino Marella. He came out to a decent pop, but then in a very awkward segment, Tammy, it seemed like it was dragging out for 10 minutes. We saw Santino sit up, and he was talking about his defeat to Antonio Cesaro, talking about how one day he promises to become the United States champion again. And I'm not going to even do his accent right now. I know I do it pretty good, but I'm not going to do it right now. And here's where it got awkward, Tammy. He was sitting up, and he put on his little pet Cobra sock, and he's talking to it. And, I mean, it was more than like 2 minutes long. I mean, this guy was talking to his sock for like 5 minutes. And what was really eerie about this whole segment was dead crowd on this particular segment. Dead crowd when he made a Rocky Balboa reference. I mean, he tried to pull a Rocky Balboa reference from Rocky IV. If I can change, you can change.
Brother.
And we all can change. And I'm saying to myself, really? Okay, so you pull the Rocky Balboa card. The crowd is dead. They obviously have no idea what the hell you're talking about. I was like, wow, this is just way over their heads. This segment definitely sucks. Luckily, Antonio Cesaro would come out, and it looks like, Tammy, their program is just getting started. It looks like these two are going to be locking it up again as we saw them fight on the stage area. And once again, we see a scenario where Santino, he's about to strike Cesaro with the Cobra, but the Cobra kind of acts like the lower region and is more attracted to Ascana, and the hand goes over there, and Cesaro, he comes up from behind, attacks Santino. You know, I'm speechless.
That is something else. Well, actually, I don't know if it's so much that they didn't understand it. Maybe it was a combination of both. Either they didn't understand it or they didn't like it. To be honest with you, for me, it sounds more like he was talking to himself instead of his sock. And to be honest with you, that just seems so weak. And if he has his own little thing, but his mic skills aren't that strong to do that kind of thing. Honestly, just like basically was said, they don't understand or they're bored out of their mind.
I heard you. You wanted to throw an F-bomb in there. Yeah, I mean, really weird moment right there. I know we had some people that had called into the show at the very beginning. I don't know if they were just trying to call in to just have their voices be heard, but in case you guys missed the memo, we take phone calls, fan reactions from you guys towards the end of the show. We try to dedicate the last 20, 15 minutes to you guys. So if you are still listening to the show, just try calling in around the 45-minute mark, because that's when we'll be opening up the phone lines. Doesn't really make sense to take the phone calls at the very beginning of the show. Tammy, I think you can agree with that.
Yeah, unfortunately there is a little bit of case where it could be somewhat of a spoiler for some of the other people who, depending on, where you are in the show, for some of those people who haven't checked out or aren't aware of what's kind of going on. And, to a point, it's something we may look into later, but at this point it's still going to continue to be at the end of the show.
Exactly. And, folks, we definitely want to briefly get you guys caught up on what happened in the latest and wrestling-related news, entertainment news, and we still got those reviews that's going to be coming up for you guys. We still got plenty of showtime left. We got about 30 minutes left. Let's go ahead and let's blaze right through it. I don't even feel like taking a commercial break right now. We'll see how we do after we get done talking about the latest and wrestling-related news. And actually, not too much has been happening since last we were on the air. And by the way, we do the RCWR show Tuesday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern. Check that out, as you'll get the latest 411 on the fallout from that past Monday night's WWE Raw, the latest in WWE-related news, and then Impact Showdown Radio, which airs Thursday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern, immediately after TNA Impact Wrestling. We'll get you caught up on what all you missed on TNA Impact and the latest on TNA wrestling-related news. So 2 shows that go more in-depth about what all you missed from those respective companies. So check those 2 shows out when you get a chance. But picking up with wrestling-related news, Tammy, we finally find out what had happened with Angelina Love and why she had decided to part ways with the TNA organization. Now, she went on a radio show a couple of weeks back, and this is pretty much what she had to say. She said, "There's no big fancy story. There's no scandal. It's nothing too big. I spoke to all the appropriate people. It was just my time. It was just my time to go. I was there for 5 years, was a 5-time Knockouts champion and a 1-time Knockouts tag team champ, and did a lot with a lot of people storyline-wise. I guess I accomplished everything you could. Of course, I was always coming up with ideas and wanting to do more and trying to be creative and get myself into this storyline and that storyline. Some things were being talked about, but mutually and completely amicable. We just decided it was my time and that was it." And she also had said if there was a difference between the direction of the Knockouts division after Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff joined the company. And she said, "I don't know really. I find Hulk Hogan to be very, very cool. He was very supportive of the Knockouts division and would always watch our matches and give feedback and was like, 'You girls kick ass.' I think they know that the Knockouts division is a big part of TNA and it really helps out the show. But they are pretty supportive of it." So, and she also brings up if she would sign with the WWE if the opportunity had presented itself. She said, "Yeah, absolutely. I would love to. I think that would be awesome. It would be really, really fun. I really haven't worked with many of the girls there, so it would be an all-new era of possibilities, and that's fun." So it's really nice to know, Tammy, that, because we sat up when we first had heard about this, we didn't even try to sit up and stretch anything out of it. We just kind of sat up and said, okay, budget cuts, that definitely speaks out. But that was as far as we were kind of willing to wrap our brains around. It's really nice to know that there was nothing shady that had happened in there involving her leaving the company. It sounds pretty much like you're left with the impression that, hey, the door could possibly be open at a later date for her to return.
Yeah, it actually does. There actually could be one of two reasons that happened. One, that actually could be the case where she's actually just done for now, and wants to pursue other things, and that's great if that's the case. But then you also have that other side, which is the keeping it real side, is maybe that's just the positive spin she wants to put on it. And there's a backstory to that, which is possible, but that's just the keep it in your brain. I think that's also a possibility too, because when you start going in, maybe she didn't want to bash the company, and say, oh, okay, well, this is what didn't work for me, and blah 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 blah, and I'm done, I'm out of here at this place, but if that's the case and she chose to be the bigger person, kudos to her.
Yeah, mad kudos to her. We got to give a couple of shout-out birthdays. Vince McMahon, chairman of the WWE, Big Daddy Vince. He turned 67 years old today. I know many of you guys have been wondering if he's going to retire. He pretty much let it be known at least a year ago in a report that he had gave to the Bloomberg that he is going to die in his chair as head of the WWE. He doesn't plan on going anywhere anytime soon. Maybe when he gets to the point where people tell him that he's losing it, maybe he'll go retire on a beach somewhere and enjoy the views. But he says right now he is feeling good. He does not plan on retiring anytime soon. Also, we want to wish happy birthday to the metal god himself, Judas Priest lead singer Rob Halford, who turns, Tammy, 61 years old, and he still looks good. I want to look like that when I get old, just minus all the damn tattoos that's on his head, and I don't want to be looked at while I'm walking down the street. And also happy belated birthday to, baby. I know that's a very bad impression, but happy belated birthday to former Led Zeppelin singer Robert Plant, who turned 64 years old this past Monday. He's done some phenomenal stuff. I know there's a live album that's been floating around right now that was recently released with the Strange Sensation. We'll definitely have a review of that for you guys next week on the RCWR Show Weekend Report. It's definitely some phenomenal stuff. But, yeah, we definitely wanted to get those happy birthdays out there before we forget. TMZ's got an article up talking about former WWE star and UFC vet Ken Shamrock. Now, apparently he was accused of assaulting a woman that he thought was a man. Now, he allegedly assaulted this woman while trying to break up a fight at a mall. This was all happening somewhere in California. Now, he says he thought the woman was a man, and he backed off quickly once he realized that he was assaulting a woman. Now, Shamrock allegedly slammed a bystander who jumped in and put him in a hold on the ground. He then informed another bystander that the person he just knocked out was a woman. Police filed a battery report against Shamrock, but charges will likely be dismissed because he believed he was acting in self-defense. So really interesting right there. Man.
Wow.
Yeah. That's all.
Whoops.
I'm hearing this and I'm kind of saying to myself, dude looks like a lady. Or in this case, lady looks like a dude.
Well, I mean, at this point, as bad as some people think that particular movie is, maybe he should have pulled a Crocodile Dundee move in one of the movies that he did and basically went for the goods and to see what was and wasn't there.
Yeah, seriously. Let's go ahead and let's jump into some music news now. Now, Iron Maiden, they continue to actively support former drummer Clive Burr, who is in the fight of his life right now as he is dealing with MS. They're being very quiet about it. Now, they've made a string of Clive Aid appearances in the past to help Clive Burr, and it's a trust that they helped set up, and they did all this after the MS had began affecting his life, his livelihood, over a decade ago, and it basically sidelined him into a wheelchair. So,
that's a horrible disease,
yeah.
especially when it's in stages to deal with, and also for the family. So, mad support and kudos to them.
Yeah, really, man, just really, it gets at you when you hear stuff like that, especially for these bands that you grew up on as a kid, and you hear how some of them are not panning out so good. Definitely thoughts and prayers go out to you guys, especially you fans of Iron Maiden fans. Definitely make sure you send them, get well wishes, and I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy, man. I mean, that's some serious stuff right there. We got some Def Leppard news for you guys. Def Leppard frontman Joe Elliott had to explain to a bunch of people through social media why he had to cut a concert short, as he had risked possible damage to his vocal cords if he had kept singing. And he would reveal that basically he had came down with a little bit of a flu bug, and that he got some cortisone shots, and that he's back up and running again. True story, he said that once he started singing Photograph and the vocals just wasn't hitting it, that he just stopped. And I'm kind of saying to myself, now, Joe, right, that you're never going to be able to match the way you hit those notes on an actual studio version of Photograph, right? Because that's one of those songs, Tammy, I'm actually surprised that they sing that live.
Mhm.
Yeah,
definitely.
I'm very surprised. That's a song I wouldn't even, if I was Def Leppard, I wouldn't even be singing that. But then also we should point out, because I know, Tammy, I know you're a Def Leppard fan. I'm a Def Leppard fan too. I know we were just talking about it the other day, how Joe Elliott, he used to spend a lot of years with other Def Leppard bandmates. It seemed like every time you see them do an interview, oh, yeah, it's going to be really cool. And, he had a cigarette and he's drinking whiskey on the rocks. And it's like, it's not exactly helping out your vocal cords, man.
No doubt that it is absolutely not helping out his vocal cords. Sometimes, unfortunately, hard living seems to catch up with you. Just depends on what you do and, how you do it. Yeah.
We got some Aerosmith news for you guys. There's a new song that's floating around called Love Her a Lot from their upcoming new album, Music from Another Dimension. Now, we had actually sent out a tweet on that new song. We posted it on our Facebook page. You can definitely check it out there as well. Tammy, I got to hear the rest of this album, but I'm definitely a little bit concerned about this new Aerosmith album. At the first two tracks that I've heard so far, and I've actually heard more of the album. I got a friend that was able to hook me up with an advanced copy, and I must admit it kind of gave me shades of Metallica's Saint Anger album, and how it just had that whole snarly effect to it. Kirk Hammett's guitar, it was just kind of not really there on the album. Lars Ulrich's drumming just sounded really snarled and kind of like it was covered up. Well, that's definitely been the case with most of these songs that I've been hearing from this new Aerosmith album. I mean, the bass, and I'm a huge bass fan. I cannot hear the bass worth a damn. I don't know, man. I mean, it sounds good, but at the same time, I don't know. I think it might alienate that hardcore Aerosmith fans. We'll see when it comes out. It's going to be released this coming year. It's going to be coming out on November 6th, so make sure y'all check that out. Axl Rose news. Axl Rose on Tuesday, there was a hearing held in a Los Angeles courtroom concerning a $20 million lawsuit that was brought by Axl Rose against Activision Blizzard for featuring former Guns N' Roses bandmate Slash in Guitar Hero 3. Now, for those of you video game fans, you're probably saying to yourself, wait a minute, that came out a couple of years ago. What the heck is going on here? Yeah, you're right. That game came out back in 2007, and on the front cover of that, Slash was featured on it. He was in one of his main classic poses. Now, why did Axl Rose wait so long to file this lawsuit, as he didn't finally file it until 2010, so 3-year gap. Here's the reason why, and we quote, "The reason I did not file a lawsuit is because Activision, through my managers and representatives, offered me a separate video game and other business proposals worth millions of dollars to resolve any settlement my claims relating to Guitar Hero 3. From December 2007 to November 2010, Activision was offering me a Guns N' Roses dedicated video game, a game dedicated to the music from the Chinese Democracy album, and other proposals. Such possibilities will be of interest to fans, but they might not make for good legal reasoning officially." So really weird right here that this is coming about. I don't know. I don't know if Axl Rose is going to be able to win this. I mean, he waited a little bit too long. He knew about this for a long period of time. You know, if I don't know that much about legal, but if they promised him that he was going to have a video game based off of Chinese Democracy in exchange for having there be a Guitar Hero game with the classic lineup, you know, I can kind of understand that. He can definitely get them on a breach of contract from that standpoint, especially if they did come to terms on a targeted release date for a Chinese Democracy Guitar Hero video game. So very curious to see how that's going to be coming out. Guys, we got to let you know about this new Fozzy album. Co-producer Tammy and I, we were kicking back, and we listened to some of these songs. And, yeah, man, this album is pretty badass. I mean, the album that we got, we bought it on iTunes, and you can get it right now for just $7.99. I mean, you can't go wrong with that. I mean, that's a great freaking deal. Now, the album that we bought, highly recommend that you pick up, because you get 2 exclusive bonus tracks that you'll only be able to get on iTunes. And those bonus tracks is called Walk Amongst the Dead and Fairies Wear Boots. If you all are familiar with that last track I just named, yeah, they are actually playing homage to Black Sabbath right there, because that's their track. They do a pretty good job on it. Bill Ward actually plays on that track too. Definitely a good album. So, I mean, you got 12 tracks. Tammy, we went down every single track, and we were like, okay, yeah, this track rocks, this track rocks. So basically the standout tracks that jump out in our heads is Sandpaper. That is catchy as hell. A Witch Black, Whiplash, Sandpaper. I like that. It's a little catchy in there. Inside My Head, that was catchy. A Past Life, I thought that was pretty badass. She's My Addiction, that was a good one. Storm the Beaches, that's one of my favorite tracks. It's like a 11-minute they just going all out there. They just go in all types of different directions with that one. Walk Amongst the Dead, Fairies Wear Boots. So basically out of 12 tracks, what is that, Tammy? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tracks out of 12. Pretty good album. Pretty good album.
And some albums you only get one.
Yeah.
that you really, really, really like. So, yeah, those are some good odds. You definitely want to check it out, you know. And if nothing else, just show your support for Chris Jericho.
Exactly. You definitely show your support for Chris Jericho. You know, I'm a little bit on the fence, because it's like, if you're a hardcore Fozzy fan and you were to pick my brain and say, okay, well, Lee, is it better than Chasing the Grail, or is it, you know, I still think that Chasing the Grail has been the best album to date. But the Sin and Bones, I was very surprised with Chris Jericho's vocals. He definitely took it to a completely different level. I was very surprised. A lot of the tracks, I'm like, wow, that's actually him singing. That's not a special guest. I was very surprised at his vocals this time around. The guitar, instrumentals, I mean, just everything. The band, I mean, it's just really spot on. They're badass on this album. It's definitely good, but if you were to ask me which one is the best Fozzy album so far, I would have to go with Chasing the Grail, but this one comes in at a very close number 2. I definitely highly recommend you pick it up. Out of 5 stars, I would have to give this album, what you think, Tammy, maybe 4?
I would say so.
Yeah, 4 stars, pretty good right there. Of course, we got to show some love to our boy Xander Demas, who just re-released his Guitarcadia album. That actually happened on Friday, so feel free to pick that up. You can get that for a good deal as well, as it's newly re-released because he had signed with Rock and Growl Records. It's got a new design cover, whole 9 yards. Pick it up, really good. They even remixed it a little bit, cleaned it up a bit. Sounds more clearer, more sharp. Definitely want to pick it up. You can grab that for about $8 and some change too. Of course, we got to also bring up this whole new Expendables 2 video game that had came out not too long ago in the Xbox Live Marketplaces, PlayStation Network. Tammy, I sat up, I played this game, and, I got bored. I got bored after like 5 minutes. It was one of those, go shoot this, now go shoot that, push this button rapidly, now go shoot this, push this button rapidly, go shoot this. And, I didn't die, so I like those games where I die in the first few minutes because it's like, that says to me, oh, this is kind of hard. I got to really kind of think here. This is just, I would not recommend you get this game. I know in the Xbox Live Marketplace they want like 1,200 MS points, so that would be equivalent to like about, I would be like about maybe $14 for this game. Visually, nice graphics, but I would seriously just wait for the price to be cut in half. Don't buy this game. It is, the controls, they really aren't quite up to par. They're kind of easy to get into in the first few minutes. I know the response time, it was just kind of off big time. They tell you to press this button when you're supposed to create some type of action or we need to attack somebody, and there's like at least a 5-second delay. You'll find yourself hitting the button repeatedly to make it work, and it was just really one of those type of games I definitely could not recommend that you check out. Instead, I highly recommend that you go check out this other game that had came out not too long ago. It's a game called Counter-Strike GO. That game is really badass. Highly recommend that you check that out. If you like Call of Duty, you remember how it was on the first installment, first 3 Call of Duty games, you'll like this game. It's really badass. Trust me, you won't be disappointed. Tammy, we got a lot of stuff done on this show today.
Absolutely.
A lot of stuff done on this show today. We're going to go on ahead and we're going to open up the phone lines right now. We only got about 4 minutes left. At this point, if we go into overtime, it is all good. We don't mind. But special shout-out before we go off the air, we got to give a nod to one of our favorite directors of all time, Mr. Tony Scott, who apparently had committed suicide earlier this week. He had jumped off of a bridge. He was 68 years old. If that name sounds familiar to you, that's the guy that had directed Top Gun. He also directed Crimson Tide. He did Days of Thunder. He did Enemy of the State. He built a very respectable reputation as he frequently worked with Denzel Washington, as they worked in Crimson Tide, Man on Fire, the remake for the taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3, and 2010's Unstoppable. And most recently, he, along with his older brother, were the executive producers for CBS shows Numbers and The Good Wife. So very unfortunate news right there. Definitely a true movie icon. He will be missed.
Actually, also, I was looking online, and it looks like breaking news is first man on the moon, Neil Armstrong, passed away as well.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Really? Wow. Well, definitely our hearts and prayers go out to the Neil Armstrong family. That's another icon right there. It doesn't get any bigger than that.
That's right.
Every time I hear REM song, Man on the Moon, I always think of Neil Armstrong.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. We got about 2 minutes left. It's okay if we go into overtime. We just want to let you guys know right now, because we're getting ready to open up the phone lines. We may go off the air, but the conversation is going to be continuing as we'll be going into overtime. So I would say if you're going to be checking this out on the download and you want to hear the last few minutes of the show as we go into overtime, try calling back in. I'm calling back in. I'm like, I'm all over the place today. Try checking out the episode is what I was trying to say after the 15-minute mark, and it should be ready for your listening pleasure. Let's go ahead now and let's open up the phone lines. Let's go to our good friend Dave in the Michigan area. And for those of you that want to call into the show, you know what you got to do. Just feel free to go on ahead, kick back, smile, and dial. Call us right now at 646-478-3525. Once again, that's 646-478-3525. And actually, Dave, do me a favor, bro. I actually want you to hang on. I actually want to go to the 973 area code because we saw that initially 973 had called in early, and they were actually patiently waiting. We definitely want to take your call because we know you were on hold a bit earlier. Thank you for calling in.
What's up, Mr. Avenger?
Hey, what's up, bro?
You hear me okay?
Yeah, I hear you pretty good.
Oh, man, you guys are all over the map today. I definitely got to rebuttal some of your comments. Good show, though. Good show. Not ripping you, tearing you down. Good, great show. Just respectfully disagree on some of your points.
Mm-hmm.
It's an interesting debate about where do they go with Brock from here? Who do they match him up with? I don't see Mark Henry, even though you mentioned that he has lost weight. And I was impressed with his last run there, just being a total badass intimidator. I mean, it took a long time coming. What was he there? How many years? 12, 13 years in the company before he finally got a push like that?
Yeah.
I don't know where they go. I would like to see put one of their younger superstars. I think they've lost faith in Randy Orton at this point. He's got a lot to prove to get back in their good standings. Not sure if they go there. I don't know, but I enjoyed that debate. It's a stimulating topic. Your defense of strippers, I'm not sure I quite agree with that. I think if somebody is really down and out, there's always a more. You got to consider your morals. You can't set. You can't. I don't know. Listen. I'm a progressive person. I'm from New York City. I'm all about do your thing. But I don't know.
Yeah.
Sort of disagree with your stance on strippers.
Well, let me just make sure I set the record straight here. Now, I wasn't saying all strippers, and I think a good analogy of that of somebody, and Tammy, you and me were talking about this a couple of weeks ago. We were talking about how we had saw a story where a woman who was faithfully married to a husband for 30-plus years. She had a very good, high-paying job downtown. I believe she was doing some type of paralegal work. She had lost her job due to the economy, and, she had just spent months. It was at least racking up to about, Tammy, about 6-7 months. Bills had needed to be paid. What the husband was pulling in just wasn't enough, and he was working like 2 jobs. She was doing what she could to put a roof over the family's head and make sure that they get caught up on bills, so she found stripping,
Right, I think for me it wasn't as much of a condone as it was more of a comparison, because in no way, did I personally, think that it was condoning it. It's just, and I kind of agree with our caller that honestly there are so many more avenues, until you get to that point. But it was for myself, it was more of the comparison,
Right.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and again, for people just tuning in, you were I guess you were comparing and contrasting the Claire Julia Reilly storyline. Is that where how that got up?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Right.
And that storyline, I don't know. There's probably something more to it that we're not hearing. Not hearing the complete details of truth, but I I guess you brought up the point. They sold that story to the point where people were taking it literally. So maybe not sure what to make of that.
How does that make you? Talk about that. How does that because New York, you guys, your wrestling. You all love your wrestling. How does that make you feel? As a wrestling fan, to hear that, we got people that are sitting up, they can't really separate reality from non-reality, and, they attacked this woman the way that they did.
Yeah. Yeah, obviously, you got freedom of expression, but, you don't need to be, like you said, death threats. No reason to ever go there, but there's no excuse for that, unless you're talking about Adolf Hitler, some very bad tyrannical guy that needs.
Yeah.
But let's see here. I guess I had a couple other points real quick here. Wrap it up. As far as Impact, Dixie Carter did a pretty good in-depth interview with another podcast recently. I don't know if you caught some of her answers. Very interesting. Asking her about does she ever want to take the company public and stuff, and her vision. You guys didn't hit much on aces and eights. You did a little bit. I think you called them a gang, and they put out in their tweet today, they said, we're not a gang or an organization.
We can't go through too much TNA stuff because, we got that Thursday show. We got to have a lot of material for that. Now, we just recap what had happened on this past Thursday.
Yes. Well, yeah, great show. You're out of D.C. Are you a football fan? Are you a Redskins fan?
Unfortunately, surprisingly, no. I am not a Redskins fan. Before Peyton Manning had left the Colts, I religiously watched them. I'd watch New York Giants. I'd watch Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah.
Those are my teams that I'll watch any Sunday. The only time I'll sit down and I'll watch a Redskins game, I don't know why, I think it's just the whole rivalry thing. I will watch them play the Cowboys, and I actually will root for the Cowboys.
Well, hopefully RG3, I'm a Giants fan. I have no love for the Redskins, but it will be nice to see RG3 at least have some success down there. He's a pretty good athlete. So I've got tons of questions, but I'm going to let caller Dave on because he's the man. And
real quick, before I let you go, you got to tell us and the listeners one thing. How y'all been making out there with what had happened with that crazy nut that lost his cool and killed his coworker out there? Where exactly did that happen?
No. New York's considering there's 20 million people walking around the streets a day. It's a pretty safe place, and they're very strict with gun control nowadays. So it's just an isolated incident. It's going to happen if you have 20 million people in a city. It's surprising it doesn't happen more often. So, I don't believe people should have guns in a city. If you're out in the Alaskan wilderness, have a gun. But I don't believe guns should be allowed in cities at all. I should believe, like a Britain, like people should be allowed to carry billy clubs. That's it. I'm definitely opposed to guns unless last resort. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, as always, man, we appreciate when you call into the show, man. We appreciate it.
Well, let's see where this Brock Lesnar storyline goes. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, it will. Thank you for always, man. Call in as always. We appreciate it. Love our guys from the New York area. And let's go down to our good friend Dave from the Michigan area. Dave, you're live on the air, my friend. What's up, man?
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, pretty good, bro. We accidentally hit you on mute. Go ahead, Dave.
Oh, okay. I'm really worried about I think the Undertaker shouldn't come back and have no more matches. I think he should just retire and just let him be like that, which is looking like they're not going to do that. But I really wish they'd just leave it alone. And for Brock Lesnar thing, what do you think about Undertaker? About the whole retirement thing?
Now, just retirement or a whole WrestleMania streak?
I just think he should be left alone. But what do you think should he retire and just walk away right now?
I got a lot of respect for Undertaker, and that's been one of my guys that I've rooted on right up there with Stone Cold, Triple H. I followed them, all the matches they've been in for years. And Undertaker is just starting to come to a point right now where he's just becoming a draw. He's just becoming that big dollar sign of a draw. And there's a big part of me that's kind of sitting up saying, WWE, sooner or later, you're going to have to move on past the streak to try to hype up WrestleMania, hype up pay-per-view sales. I'm at the point right now where it's like, honestly, leave Undertaker alone. I mean, his streak is fine, you know, because I'm thinking about it from a marketing standpoint, right, Dave? It's like, okay, you're going to keep pumping out WrestleMania matches out of him. Then why do we continue to sit up and we keep releasing, it seems like every year, a new repackaged DVD of Undertaker streaks? You know,
now, this does look like the best one, though, the recent one.
It is the best one, but how do you top that if you're going to keep pumping out more matches out of him?
You can't, but I just wish they would just, I originally thought, like, years back, like close to the 90s, that, okay, he's going to go 20-0, and then he's just going to retire and walk away. I mean, why would they want to have someone tarnish that? I know it would help get someone over, maybe a younger guy, but that could be set at WrestleMania. In the books, the imaginary record books, that Undertaker, 20-0 at WrestleMania, no one will ever be able to mark that, or will they? I mean, that would just, I just hope they don't have someone like Brock or John Cena end the streak. I don't think the streak should be ended. I think they should just leave it alone and the Undertaker go away.
Because what's he at now? 19, right?
No, he's 20. He was 20-0 last year.
Oh, so he's definitely 20. I keep losing track. So it's definitely 20-0 now.
Yeah, because Triple H 3 times and Michaels twice. Yeah, he was 19 against Triple H the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And then Hell in a Cell made 20-0.
Okay, yeah, they need to leave the streak alone.
I just hope he does. And for the whole situation you're talking about with Brock, Brock teaming with Orton, I don't know. I was kind of thinking like Wade Barrett teaming with Wade Barrett. I think that would be interesting because you have a younger guy that they're trying to build up anyway. I like that scenario. And as far as the whole bashing on Claire Lynch and everything, this is a very touchy subject because I'm sure you've been to a few wrestling shows yourself. Like, and the most recent one was TNA one last year, and there's a lot of wrestling fans who are slower or have some type of handicap, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And when they see wrestling, they see it in a totally different light than we see it. We see it as just something entertaining to watch. They see it as actually, a lot of them see it as life, and they sit there and watch it and really into the characters. A lot with young kids, and you could get a lot of that from these bashings as well, or trolling, what some people call it trolling too. And so you could see that perspective, and you do get a lot of those fans who are just won't just go hate a character and they want to hate that person and just won't let it go.
Right.
And it is looking. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was about to say that's very unfortunate too.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks to hear that people are like death threatening people and stuff like that. Because I mean, I watch wrestling like through the week, not to watch their great riveting storylines. I watch it for some good wrestling on TV. And sometime this past week we saw an Impact a little bit, got some good wrestling. And then I did check out that show this morning, and I thought it was okay. I liked the way they did it.
Oh yeah, Saturday Slam.
Check it out.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed that. A little half an hour, I like that. I don't know if you had a chance to check it out yet.
No, I haven't seen it yet. Yeah, I'll probably try to watch it on YouTube, and because I like seeing it without all the commercials, just so it looks like one continuous flow of a show.
Yeah, it was they had a good vibe going. I liked how they did it, though. It was a good vibe on it.
Hey, I'm looking at The Undertaker right now, and I see that he's 47 years old. If they're going to dust him off for WrestleMania, and they have him do the streak again, to me, 21-0, it just has a weird vibe to it. I'm thinking to myself at this point, you know what? Why not just go on ahead, ride it out to 25, then call it a day?
See, I don't know about that because, okay, wouldn't you like the well-rounded number? Like you're 20-0, what, you're going to go 23 or 24-0, or even like you said, 25-0, and then I just think they should leave 20-0 alone and just either announce he's going to be in the Hall of Fame and he retired or something like that.
You know, Dave, I just got to brainstorm, though. I wonder, what would the odds be that the day The Undertaker finally retires would actually happen to be the end of an era and Vince McMahon, and we see two legends retire the same night?
You're saying Vince McMahon and Undertaker?
I'm thinking about it. I mean, that would really not in a match. Just
okay.
I just got this weird sixth sense going right now. I'm kind of getting the impression here that if he can stay healthy, he can go up to 25, and then we got Vince McMahon. I mean, let's jump ahead here. He's 67, so 5 years time. What's that? She's going to be 72.
72, yeah.
72. Undertaker in 5 years. That would be 52. I would not be too surprised if come the WrestleMania where Undertaker gets 25 wins under his belt, that could be the end of an era for him and McMahon.
Or who's to say they don't want to say, well, you're at 25, so you think you can make it 5 more years? I could see that happening. They're like, hey, you're already at 25, so why not go for just 5 more and do 30? And it's just... Man, I could see something like them saying, like, hey, because let's face it, let's admit it, the last few years, Undertaker's streak has been the only thing that has really been drawing WrestleMania.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not this past WrestleMania, but the year before, when it was Undertaker Triple H Part 2, I believe.
Yeah.
I mean, without that match, that was one of the worst WrestleManias I've ever seen.
Man, remind me of what was that WrestleMania again?
The Rock.
This past year's.
No, the one where he hosted WrestleMania and talked for 20
minutes. Yeah.
I mean, that was one of the worst WrestleManias.
And you know what? That's a very valid point because I like to give a challenge to everybody that's listening. Think about off the break without going online. What was the entire card for that WrestleMania? And I bet you the only thing you'll be able to come up with is Undertaker versus Triple H Part 2.
I can give you at least one
Miz versus John Cena.
Yeah, I remember that one. I mean, that is the only two you can really think of right offhand. Actually, I don't think it was that one. Never mind. I don't know. It's kind of hard to think about because I've watched the pay-per-view and it's like, man.
You bring up a very valid point because you know what? You just gave me another brainstorm. This is how insignificant I thought that pay-per-view was. I remember when my girlfriend had bought it for me the day that it came out on DVD. We fast forward to now. It is still in shrink wrap.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know who's in it. I remember The Rock coming out and talking for 20 minutes. I can give you that.
Right.
Wait, didn't we get like some kind of 6-man tag or something? Yeah, we did have Wade Barrett and them in like a tag match, I believe. That lasted 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I remember a match that all of us want to forget. Michael Cole, Jerry the King Lawler.
Oh, don't remind me, man.
I told you I do remember one.
Oh, no.
That's why it's forgettable.
Let's switch it up. Yeah, I kind of see what you're saying, though. They could possibly make The Undertaker. They could possibly, Tammy, I definitely want you to chime in your thoughts because, I'm thinking about The Undertaker. He would kind of have that whole Sting running gag where every single year Dixie Carter, she's somehow able to convince Undertaker. Damn, I got my guys mixed up. She's somehow able to convince Sting to stick around for one more year. What are your thoughts on this whole Undertaker and the streak, and when would you like to see him bow out?
Honestly, I think I'd like to see him bow out right now because he still does have some good years left, but how many times are you going to go through the same matches over and over and over again as far as, at WrestleMania, and how many times can you resell that, repackage it? I mean, grant you probably as much as Undertaker's willing to do, but I honestly think that the 20-0, I honestly think he should really be done.
Yeah. But because, you know what, guys, though, in all seriousness, whether we like it or not, we're going to see Undertaker versus Brock Lesnar. And we all know it's going to be a good match, but it's not quite something that we really want to see because this all goes back to Brock Lesnar. He hasn't done really nothing, and he's been in the company for 6 months. I mean, can you just imagine a work schedule like that, guys? I mean, you sit up and you show up twice, basically, out of a whole freaking month, and you're getting paid buku's amount of money. I mean, Brock Lesnar, let's give him his props. That's a very smart motherfucker because he's got that thing down packed with his contract that would just make a lot of people just envy the hell out of him. I know I envy him. And, you got to kind of look at this and say to yourself, okay, this is helping Brock Lesnar. It's helping WWE with their pay-per-view buys. But how is it really helping the company overall? Okay, so you have an answer for WrestleMania. You got Brock Lesnar. You got Undertaker. Okay, that's good. Okay, but let's look beyond that because if they're really that pressed to re-sign Brock Lesnar and you're going to try to get the same type of deal out of him like you did this year, how do you top this year?
That's true. And it's just going to continue to be more and more, rehashing and, more money. You're not going to get it back for the same amount that you did the year before.
Because another age, that's 36 now. Okay, you still want me to go out here and do all this? Oh, well, you got to pay me a little more. If WWE is smart, I would sit up and I'd be like, look, we like what you did in year one, but this time, we want you to kind of give back. We want you to help some of this younger talent out. We want you to maybe help us with the tag team division or, maybe do this for us. I need to see him start giving back. Basically, I don't care if Brock Lesnar's, let me just set the record straight. I don't care if Brock Lesnar is in the WWE to get paid. I respect the hell out of that. I'm looking at it from Vince McMahon's standpoint because right now, this is just really helping Brock Lesnar. I want to see WWE really be able to capitalize on the return of a Brock Lesnar. I mean, let's look at the impact that The Rock has made the few times that he has been in WWE this year, right? He's made an impact. Let's go with the most recent. He popped up on Raw 1000. Why? In a nutshell, to lay down for CM Punk, to make him look good. That's what we need to see of Brock Lesnar. I mean, Brock Lesnar, let's go back to that Extreme Rules. Brock Lesnar, John Cena. I mean, honestly, Brock Lesnar should have won that. Looking back, he should have had that. Let's look at what happened with him taking on Triple H at SummerSlam. I mean, he definitely needed that win because if he didn't get that win, a lot of them hardcore MMA fans that first came across him in the UFC, they would sit up, as well as many other hardcore Brock Lesnar WWE fans would sit up and say, oh, this guy's a joke. Why should I buy a pay-per-view if he going to keep losing? I'm not interested. So now they're getting to that point right now where sooner or later they're going to have to acknowledge, okay, what do we do with Brock Lesnar in 2013? Because unless you're going to be able to give us that dream match, and I don't even really consider it a dream match. I do have my what-ifs, but I don't consider it to be a dream match of Brock Lesnar taking on Stone Cold. Unless you're going to be able to somehow get that set up in 2013, or maybe have Brock Lesnar take on Batista, I just don't really see how you're going to be able to get the best out of him 2013 and beyond.
I like that, though.
Right. I like the idea, of giving back and making the other wrestlers look good, lifting them up. Maybe it could be a system. Honestly, what's better maybe for the WWE is someone giving him not maybe just a one-year contract, but a 2 or 3 year contract and saying this is progressive.
Yeah. Or at least tweak it in a way so that you can get as many appearances out of them as possible. I mean, or at least, you know what? I mean, I can't help but go with The Rock, and I'm not like sweating him or nothing, but you just can't help but respect each time The Rock has come in his own way. He's helped out the company. You know, he doesn't need them. It's obvious. You know, he's doing very well on his own. He don't need them, but he helps them anyway. And Jericho, you know, he kept losing and losing. I mean, it got down to the point where fans were like, "Look, man, we're tired of seeing you lose. We want to see you leave the company. Go do something else. Come back in a few months." But even Jericho was sitting up, even though he had his head dipped in all other different types of projects. He was still giving back to the company. He was still doing the right thing. Did he maybe lose too frequently? Yeah, but, you know, he was still giving back. And I think in retrospect, it was nice that he went out there like that. And I think when you really add up all those times that he was helping them out, yeah, it was a no-brainer that he should have won at SummerSlam, you know. But those two guys, they gave back. John Cena, when needed, he does the right thing. When needed, he does the right thing. Brock Lesnar, you know, I respect him from a business standpoint, but so far, you chalk up these 6 months, it hasn't benefited nobody but himself.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Hey, Lee.
Yeah.
I think, honestly, with Brock Lesnar, they're just trying to, and like, admit it, all those UFC fans were Attitude Era fans a lot before they were UFC fans. A lot of good percentage of those guys were. And they left and went to the UFC when they went all PG or whatever. And Brock comes back. They're trying to target that audience again. They say they're done with the Attitude Era, but they're still trying to get the Attitude Era fans back to watch Brock Lesnar to take on Cena or Triple H. And I'm pretty sure that their pay-per-view buys have been pretty good since those 2 pay-per-views he actually did. But
yeah, you're right, because
because
Extreme Rules had pulled in 297,000 pay-per-view buys. Correction, like over 270,000 pay-per-view buys. SummerSlam did just over 300,000 pay-per-view buys.
Yeah, dude, that's what and they're going to target Survivor Series. But a few years back, what was it, maybe 5, 6 years ago, or maybe longer than that, Undertaker and Brock Lesnar, their series of matches they had on SmackDown. There's no way any of those matches could be topped next year at WrestleMania, I don't think.
Mm.
Because you remember some of those Hell in a Cell matches they had? It was like one of the best Hell in a Cell matches ever, I believe.
Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
I mean, Undertaker and Brock, I mean, I don't know if they should go that route. If they're going to have Undertaker wrestle again, I would love to see The Rock and Undertaker, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a match we never really got to see, even when The Rock was there. Maybe a little bit, but nothing really like a good storyline with The Rock and Undertaker that I can recall.
I wouldn't mind seeing that, and I wouldn't mind, because these two guys, in my opinion, they just kind of gave me the impression they really didn't hook up that much. I wouldn't mind seeing The Rock and Triple H go at it one more time. I'm very curious how would a storyline be between them today, being at the point of where they're at right now.
Of course, Triple H would have to do the heel thing again. But, I mean, they had some classic matches, whether it be for the Intercontinental title, when they were Nation versus DX, or when they both were world champions. And, I mean, one of my favorite matches is the Iron Man match they had. That was an awesome match.
Mm-hmm.
It was a Judgment Day, I believe.
Yeah. It was a damn good match. And, you know, it brings up a haunting vision to mind when you really think about it. You know, something that you touched upon. You know, they keep talking about this whole Attitude Era, how they're trying to get past that. They're trying to move on to the next thing, and I can respect that, right? But you're about to give us a video game on October 30th that's relying so heavily on the Attitude Era. I mean, on the one hand, me as that hardcore gamer, I'm looking at that and I'm thinking back to that very first SmackDown video game. I'm thinking back to that first WrestleMania on N64. I'm thinking back to No Mercy. I'm thinking about this video game that's about to drop, and I'm looking at it, and I'm saying to myself, I finally get the game I've been waiting for. It looks like they got all my guys that look revamped with these cool graphics. It looks like they're going to be pushing more than one attire. They're going to be pushing their Attitude attire. Oh, this is the game that I've been waiting for. But then on the flip side of that, you sit up and say, man, they're relying so much on an era that's long gone. I'm very curious, what does the younger talent think about that? Because that sends a strong message to me that, hey, you guys, you know, this era of WWE, you guys aren't just cut out. You guys honestly suck. We got to try to figure out how to make money off of this. We got to go dip into the past.
Yeah, I mean, and let's not forget, it hasn't been PG for 12 years. It didn't really jump PG till after the whole Chris Benoit incident. I think it was back in 2007 when you had the DX doing the whole McMahon Loves Cock segments and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's only been like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
I mean, it hasn't really been PG. Everyone keeps saying that the Attitude Era died in like 2001, 2002. Well, they were still edgy and going over that line all the way up until probably after the whole Benoit incident.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like that's when they went PG, honestly, right after the whole Benoit murder-suicide thing, and that's when it changed.
Right. Right.
And so, I mean, John Cena's been around. I mean, I don't agree with what Cena said to Punk, because he could have basically said, well, you know what, you have been the best in the world for the past 9 months. He could have done something that as a respectful thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But, and the attitude, I don't like that. I hope you guys do a review on the game, too.
Oh, for WWE 13?
WWE 13, yeah.
Oh, yes. Yes, as a matter of fact.
I plan on picking it up anyway.
As a matter of fact, I know something cool that we're going to try to do as the time draws near. We're actually going to try to give away at least 2 copies.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, we're gonna try to give away at least 2 copies of that game. Yeah, we definitely gonna have a review for that, because I must admit, I looked at that. I thought WWE 12 was going to be it for me, but I was like,
yeah, I was really disappointed.
Yeah, I'm looking at what's happening with 13. I'm like, okay, it looks like they finally got it together. They are acknowledging the problems that they had with the online capabilities. It looks like they,
man.
Okay, I'll bite, but please impress me this time around, because, I'd hate to be heartbroken again, because, that last one was.
Oh, I know. The online play is a whole nother show altogether, how that thing crap went through.
Yeah, every time you try to go and download somebody's stuff, you're like, oh.
Hell, I know. And just the way they did the moves, like, you couldn't even, the punt kick looked like a regular kick. I was like, what? You could have been, just,
Hell, man, I was tripping over Rey Mysterio being able to pick up Big Show after you rapidly press a button. I can't even, I know, it's like, there's no, like, what was it, No Mercy? When you could start to pick, like, Andre up and then you would, like, fall back and grab your back or something? Yes. Bring that back. That I used to love. Yeah, you used to have to try to build up enough stamina to do it, but when it came to Andre, it never worked. I think Hogan, the big guys, if you made yourself a heavyweight, because I think Andre the Giant in that game, I think they had him as Ultra, and he was like the only one that had that title. See, Tammy, you don't know about that game.
I did.
That's true.
Lee, I did hear they're going to add multiple specials you can add up on that, too. Like they did SmackDown 2, I believe.
Oh, now that's...
You can add, like, 4 or 5 specials up or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah, that would definitely be nice, but... Yeah, hopefully they if they're gonna go with Undertaker for a couple of more years, let it be 25, and let it be the end of it. But really, Brock Lesnar going forward, they need to try to sit up and they need to try to come up with a real serious game plan. I mean, like I said, with how they did SmackDown this past Friday, I love how they sat up, and I love how they just reminded us of, yes, we have a tag division, it's growing. That was the message I saw in that backstage segment. That's why I was like, this was one of my favorite highlights of SmackDown. And, hopefully, within the next 6 months, we can sit up and we can have a different discussion about how the tag team division is really starting to pick up. It's getting good. And maybe it can get to that point where it'll overshadow what's happening with that Divas division.
Yeah, I know one thing. I mean, I agree with you. I was thinking the same thing. Just throw all those tag teams in there. But I'm sure we could sit here and talk all day, but I just got one more question for you, and I'll let you go.
What's up, bro?
How do you feel about AJ right now? I mean, I just wish either Paul Heyman would come in and be the GM or somebody other than her. Do you feel like we should just go ahead and keep AJ for the next 5 years as GM or however long they do it? Or do you think it's just time to give her the boot?
All right, I'll definitely tackle that right now. Dave, thank you as always. We went into some good overtime there. I like this. Tammy, you enjoying overtime?
Yeah, not bad. Very good point by our friend Dave.
Yeah, and let's not forget our boy in New York. We definitely got to show him some love too. Yeah,
that's true.
Good overtime edition. Yeah. I sometimes I don't like when we go into overtime because we go off the air, but I think the conversation is more cooler when we go into overtime. Because it's like we can just really be loose and not really care about who's listening. Especially if little Jimmy is in front of it, and it's like, oh, mommy, why didn't you say that? What that word mean? So. But AJ Lee, Tammy, we definitely got to go out on a high note with regards to AJ Lee. Now, I know you and me, we both sat up. We were looking at this a while back, and we sat up and we were like, oh, wow, AJ, she is just really quickly moving up the ranks. Man, she is very impressive. And, I mean, we weren't even really saying anything like as far as her wrestling ability, because if you say to me AJ wrestles, I'll be like, oh, yeah. But then I'll add, well, I don't know how her wrestling is. I don't know if she sucks or not. I just know what I've seen with her from these little backstage segment pieces, and she's been doing with Daniel Bryan, Kane, and John Cena backstage and in the ring. I can only just go off of that. And at first, Tammy, she just really looks like a very cool type of character that was just really able to connect on so many levels. I mean, she was the fantasy of a lot of guys, especially older guys. She definitely captured the minds of teenagers. She definitely captured the minds of those young girls that want to be like her. And, I mean, she definitely kind of had her own little Rey Mysterio thing going on in a sense, as we know how Ray is with his connection to just people of all ages. And it just really seemed like the direction that they were going to be going was a very promising one, as she was just shooting up to the point that she surpassed Eve. And, Tammy, you and me were like, oh, Eve, she, But then here comes little AJ, and it just got to the point where they made her the GM. And what was it, Tammy? After about 2-3 weeks, we're already tired of her.
Mhm. I mean, for her, it was cute as an act for a fellow wrestler, but as a GM, you expect that it's something different. You see shades of that with her at times, but, maybe it's kind of a torn between, that person that got her there and the GM that she needs to be. Honestly, I kind of agree with Dave. I'm actually a little bit tired of one of the particular acts. I mean, there's shades of a GM, and I can see that. But those other little girly, skipping down to the ring, I mean, it just doesn't fit for me. It just doesn't fit. I mean, I understand the fantasy, with some of the audience, but, for me, it's kind of like,
I mean,
not as into it.
I mean, let's be for real here. Guys. And we are in the overtime. I keep forgetting I can throw a little profanity out there now. Can you just picture this for a second here? And I just had this funny scene in my head as you were saying all this. Can you all just picture Vince McMahon skipping down the stage, and he's like, "Hey, John Cena, hey, how you guys doing?" And he's just skipping. "This is what's going to happen on Raw tonight. John Cena, you're going to take on Chris Jericho." And then his music comes on. "No chance. That's what you got." And he gets out the ring, and he's skipping to the backstage area. I mean, let's be for real. All the silliness aside, you're trying to get in your head that this person is of some type of high authority, that they have some type of power. You can't take them seriously if they're grown asses sitting up skipping along the frickin' I mean,
absolutely.
I mean, seriously. I mean, did you ever see Dana White skip to a UFC pay-per-view event? Have you ever seen John Madden skip his way out to a football field to get ready to call a play-by-play match?
If they did, they'd end up calling him a sissy.
Yeah, I know, right? So, I mean, you look at what's happening with AJ, and that what one time used to be really cute. I mean, Tammy, I said it before. I was a little bit shocked when we saw AJ just shoot up the ranks that she did, because I thought initially we were going to see Eve move up the ranks and that she was going to slide on in to that Raw GM spot. Because I'm saying to myself, Eve, my gosh, she's hot. She's more mature. I mean, she just already has that heat. Fans, they already don't like her. She had already surpassed Vicky Guerrero. I mean, she was able to just generate that heat ever since she had got dubbed Hosky. And for a product that's supposed to be pushing a PG rating, they're supposed to be all about kid-friendly. Here you have the fans basically. Come on, let's be for real here. We know exactly what she's being called. She's being called a hoe, okay? So I just thought that with all that taken into consideration, the smart money would have been on Eve to be the Raw GM, but they went the route that they did with AJ. And unfortunately, this is a case right now where eventually it's going to come back to bite Vince McMahon and WWE in the ass, because they're going to start losing viewership every single time AJ starts coming out. It's going to happen sooner or later. Now, will AJ make it as the Raw into 2013? Guys, the way I'm looking at it right now, I'm not really sure. I mean, we heard buzz that John Laurinaitis is going to come back on main WWE TV programming at some point. And when he does, honestly, I think look out, because if there was ever a time that there should be some type of power struggle, it would definitely be with a John Laurinaitis returning. Tammy, I actually miss John Laurinaitis. I don't know about you, but I kind of miss that dry voice, and I miss him coming out with that stupid little logo. And I remember early on when I saw that logo, I told my friends, I said, look at John Laurinaitis' logo when he comes out, and look at the words under it. And they were like, I don't get it. Just think about it. And they didn't get it. For you guys that don't get it, you know that logo of John Laurinaitis is like a blue and white drawing, and it's showing him pointing his finger, and then he's got the text up under it, people power. Now just think about it. Come on. You need a little help? White people power. I just think that's so funny.
What? Where in the world did you get that? Because the flag is white?
No. He has this logo. It's a drawing of him. He's holding a microphone and he's pointing, like he's Uncle Sam. He's got that irritating little smile and he's pointing. And he's got words up under it. And it says people power. So you kind of let it set in a little bit and you're like, what color is John Laurinaitis? You go, white. What's up under, people power? White people power.
Okay, that sounds absolutely like one of them things that we saw in Boomerang, where we had the three guys and Martin Lawrence's character, and everybody was like, racial, man, racial. For some reason, that is absolutely what I'm thinking when you say that, because honestly, for me, I see people power as in a group of people, not significant to color.
Well, see, here's where I noticed that because, I have a little pet peeve for advertising. So I look at that logo and I'm saying to myself, they might want to go with something a little bit different because that doesn't exactly make too much sense, White man, people power. Look, for you guys that just next time, I give you a perfect scenario. Go on YouTube, pull up a Raw episode where John Laurinaitis comes out on that scooter, and you'll see his logo as clear as daylight as he's riding down the ramp. All I want you guys to think about, just think about what I just said, and you two will be chuckling if you're not chuckling already. Just think about what I just said, and then you're going to be like, goddamn Lee. Very, very funny. But, AJ, I don't know. I don't think she's going to make it to WrestleMania as the Raw GM.
Well, honestly, I did not. Well, before he left, John Laurinaitis for me was just kind of irritating, annoying, and I wanted him to go. But the replacement is somewhat immature, and it's not what you expect out of a GM. So, to be honest with you, when you were saying that, and the picture in my head was that I actually miss him. Because he has that GM, COO kind of a feel to him, and respected that. You may not have liked it, but you certainly respected it.
And our boy Don from New York, we got to show him some love. He just sent us a tweet. He said, if you say AJ as the Raw GM will hurt the WWE, surely it can't be as worse as the laptop computer. You know what? I will take the laptop. True. I will take the laptop over AJ. God, I missed that laptop. I sat up the other day and I was messing around with some sound bite, and I was mixing up something for the show, and I came across doo-doo-doop, doo-doo-doop, and it automatically just made me think of Cole and him say, "Excuse me, I just received an anonymous email from the Raw, anonymous Raw general." You know the damn line. I just miss those days. Honestly, I miss the damn laptop. Bring the laptop back, or better yet, here's another interesting concept. Why not bring back what they had, which was what I thought popular a couple of years back, where for over the series of weeks, they had a random superstar come in as the Raw GM for that week. Now, I'm not saying bring back the celebrity Raw GM. I don't want to see that come back, especially people that don't really know nothing about wrestling and WWE. I don't want to see that. I want to see WWE legends come back. Now, remember what I said a couple of weeks ago, folks. I said how Vince McMahon, he wasn't really too keen on working with WWE legends again. Well, that's just really match-wise or whatever like that. But you know what, Tammy? I wouldn't mind seeing a WWE legend pop up each week to be the Raw GM. That creates a lot of buzz. You're wondering who it could possibly be. and it could just be a one-night only type of deal. Eventually, we could go back to seeing Bret Hart, but he's already popped up enough times. It's about damn time to see Shawn Michaels be a Raw GM. It's about damn time to see Chris Jericho be a Raw GM. I would not mind, if handled right, seeing Undertaker be a Raw GM. I mean, can you just picture that, as the Undertaker could just pop up on the Titantron and everything is just all dark, and he could just be like, "The powers that be gave me control for tonight. So, you like to fight, Sheamus? Then you're going to have a match with my little brother Kane." I mean, that would be kind of badass if they did it right. We need to see guys like Jimmy Snuka. We need to see guys like Sergeant Slaughter, Dusty Rhodes, Ric Flair. We need to see a whole bunch of WWE legends just come back, and they could just host on a weekly basis Raw. And they got enough talent. That's the thing. They can definitely go through the list of WWE legends.
That's actually a great concept. And, I mean, even if they just tried it for a month and just did, 4 different people, 4 different Raws, and, kind of had them do their own spin on what it was they wanted for the show. That's actually a great concept.
Yeah.
It would make it fun and interactive, because you have those fans who are wanting to see their favorite wrestlers back, if only for one night.
I mean, could you just imagine if, and I mean if, the day were to come that Bruno Sammartino does make amends with the WWE? Could you just imagine, folks, for one night only, in front of the right type of crowd? And it's either got to be a New York crowd, it's got to be a Boston crowd, it's got to be a Chicago crowd, Pittsburgh. They know they're wrestling. They appreciate legends. Can you just imagine if for one night only we see the return of Bruno Sammartino, and he's the Raw GM? I mean, the ratings for that episode will probably be through the roof. A lot of endless possibilities right there. I've been saying that for years, Tammy. I've been saying that for at least the past 7 years. I say, you know what, let's have these legends pop up. Let them make special guest appearances. I've also been quick to point out that WWE legends should also be commentators. They should rotate it. It would be nice. Sooner or later, they're going to have to think about a future without Jerry the King Lawler. Michael Cole's locked. We got Michael Cole, whether we like him or not, we got Michael Cole for at least the next 20 years. Jerry Lawler, I wouldn't be surprised if he rolled out in about 5 years. So, you got to kind of start thinking about the future. So while you're trying to figure out who your permanent guy is going to be to go side by side with Cole, there's another one. You can have the WWE legends be color commentators until you find that right fit.
Absolutely.
So I think
that's a smart way to use. That's a smart way to use your legends and to still keep them in the eye if that's what they choose.
And you know what? Talk about WWE giving back, because in a sense, this can help those legends that may have come down on hard times. And WWE, they may be in a position where they would like to help, but they have financial obligations elsewhere. But if maybe they could come to some type of an agreement, well, you come work for us, you come do these dates. Okay, yeah, we could definitely work something out. That would be a way of them giving back, since unfortunately there is no type of a WWE retirement fund. There's no medical, there's nothing like that. So unfortunately, a lot of these wrestlers, once they're done, that's pretty much it. They actually got to go to Social Security and welfare, work 2-3 odd jobs to try to make ends meet. Here would be a nice little scenario where WWE could kind of reach out to those legends who were definitely on point in their day, can still bring a good A game, at least verbally, and just need to be put under the right type of spotlight to shine, if not for one night only. You know, I think it would be a really good way to bring those old school wrestling fans back, especially those guys that are from that Attitude Era. You know, as their taste has grown up and they're in the other stuff now. You know, it kind of be a nice little way to kind of bring them back, kind of welcome them back home in a sense. So, very curious to see what the future's going to hold there. But I like how we went from AJ to John Laurinaitis to WWE legends. I mean, it just all just blended in so perfectly.
Absolutely. Mhm.
That's going to do it. I think we did a damn good show. Tammy, what you think?
Not bad at all, I have to say. I'm, happy for our good friends that gave us their feedback, and we certainly appreciate that, and to either make us better, or we appreciate your thanks for doing a good show.
Yeah, we did a damn good show. We got to thank the people that took the time out to call into the show. Dave, as always. Don from New York, as always. Appreciate it. Thank you, the people who tuned into the show via Stitcher or you checking it out on the downloads. Those of you that's going to be checking it out on YouTube, shout out to our new YouTube subscribers. Special shout out to you guys. Hope you enjoy all the content that we are putting up. This was a good overtime segment. That's going to do it, folks. We're going to be on a somewhat, 72-hour break. We're going to be coming back live this Tuesday night for the RCWR show.